Finally, the Warren gives him no space. Oh, he's sideways. He's very, very sideways. A very, very good evening to you, wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. We are back for round 8 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship here in Sydney. Delayed by one day, this broadcast unfortunately isn't live, so we apologise. We won't be answering your comments in the chat. We are working on a new studio and we'll be back to live streams as soon as we possibly can. But it is my pleasure to welcome to this broadcast my partner in crime for tonight, Michael Floodman Zalavari, joining myself, Alistair Stairs Schmidt.
Good evening, Stairs. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back in the booth and back in person for a change. It's the first one that I've done live with you in your broadcast setup. Very impressive broadcast setup since last year's Bathurst 1000, I believe.
Wow, it's been that long, has it really?
Surely has. I mean, I've filled
No, you did Bathurst in round 1 this year.
That was right.
That was in our old studio.
Yes,
but
we're in transition.
We are in transition. The last broadcast we did was at the beginning of South Australia's one and only lockdown for the year. So we had to do that remotely, as we were talking about previously. But yes, back in person. We're starting to get back to a normal world, and part of a normal world is motorsport action on your television screen.
Absolutely right. And with the return of the real deal in the real world this weekend, or this past weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park, here at ASC, we are back as well. And we are not just back for this week, but we are back for the next, is it 3 weeks in a row, Stairs?
Yes, let's have a look at the calendar. There is next week's race at Sydney. We have 4 rounds in Sydney, one of which you can see there is missing, which is Sydney 3, is a Super 2 only event. As far as ourselves, Apex Rear Wing will be broadcasting the 3 main series Sydney events, which is Sydney 1, 2 and 4. So that's next week, and then 2 weeks after that, again on the 23rd of November. Now the races take place one day before that. We'll have delayed broadcasts for tonight's race, tomorrow, next week's race, and then the one on November 22, which you can see here on the Automobilista Supercars Championship YouTube channel on November 23rd. And then you can see the big one coming up towards the end of December, very late one this year, due to the circumstances that we're all familiar with. This is going to be the big one, the Bathurst weekend, where we will be bringing you live qualifying and the 1000.
And I am very, very excited for that one. Last year, we put out all the stops, Stairs, didn't we? With myself, Madbird, and we also had Matty Dunlop and Josh Baggs, and then a cameraman live on site, James Donovan, who helped raise the standard of that entire weekend's worth of broadcasting. I had a lot of fun putting together those little bunker segments. We'll have that back again, so I'm excited.
Yes.
So very exciting times for Bathurst. Hopefully by then in a new studio as well for you, Stairs.
I certainly hope so. It's I've been getting updates, and the house that I will soon be living in is currently being built, so it is in its final stages, and I'm assured that Well, we're hoping at this stage, touch wood, that it'll be somewhere towards the end of this month that we get to move in, but hopefully well and truly settled by the time that Bathurst rolls around. If not, goodness knows, we'll have to come up with some other solution. But live stream for the Bathurst is going to go ahead, come hell or high water. Let's have a quick look at the championship standings heading into this round. It's been quite some time. But we have Kurt Stenberg with a pretty good lead. He's nearly got a full round's worth of points in terms of the advantage over Zach Baker in second. Then it's Colin Warwick, who's been on a really, really hot run of form, I should say. Then it's Benjamin Dahlia, Brody Steen, Luke Rosella, rounding out to the top 6. It's a strange place to stop rounding it out. Then it's RSM Latino ahead of David Nenadic, Sean Allen, who's missed a few rounds, and then Lachlan Bork rounding out the top 10 there, Mike.
And then the points classification, it is ZB Racing with David Nenadic and Zach Baker leading away ahead of Race on Oz and Black Shores Racing. Trans Tasman Racing in 4th place. Race on Oz 2, Benjamin Dahlia and Alex Cattle featuring in that team. Synergy Sim Racing 1, Black Shores RSM, all Australian races. Mute Sim Sports and Missed Apex, a few of those missing a few rounds down the back of the field. It's been a long time since we've had a championship race, so it's been a while since we've actually seen these cars on track. I believe it was, as you mentioned, Townsville back in July. That was the last round that we had for ASC, so has been quite a stretch. I wonder how green a few of these drivers are going to be, how out of habit, out of practice, out of form they're going to be after such a long break.
Yeah, and it was Kurt Stenberg, the last one to win a race in this championship, and well, he's been doing a lot of that this year. He's not in the server yet as I look at it. I think he's been helping Sean Allen try and get back into the server because, well, I say get back in, he hasn't been able to find the server in the multiplayer list. So Sean Allen, who was taking a bit of a break, he missed quite a few races, as I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast. Last raced in Darwin back in, I'm going to guess, June, I think that was.
I think that was early June, yeah.
And so he took a bit of a break, and it kind of coincided with our hiatus here, but was keen to get back on track tonight, but thus far has not been able to. He's doing a clean reinstall of Automobilista at the moment, I understand, and is hoping that will allow him to see the server.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It would be a shame for Sean Allen to miss out after doing all the right things to try and get back behind the wheel, and Kurt Stenberg as well. If he is tied up and unable to get back in, that would be quite a surprise for the current championship leader. We've got Luke Rosella on screen at the moment. He's been the one setting the early pace in this practice session. Not so much across the week. The fastest time so far in pre-qualifying and in practice is actually Corey. We believe that's Corey McFarlane, who we saw at the end join at Townsville. But he's yet to join this iteration of the server.
I thought I just saw his name, but I lost it, and he might have actually just disappeared from the names. But it's probably not quite a fair comparison because the track evolution has been reset at the start of this practice session.
Yes.
So the fastest time there of a 1:29.1, I would say, not indicative of what we will eventually see as the night wears on. The lap record, incidentally, set by Dane Warren last year of a 26.2. That's a race lap record, actually faster than the qualifying lap record that he set at the same event. I might regret saying this, but I don't think that lap record is in jeopardy tonight. But having said that, Corey's 27.4 as a pre-qualifying time could suggest that some of the faster guys might be in the 26s themselves. So I may yet eat my words there.
And there's a lot of track evolution to go tonight as well. We have a qualifying session, 2 races tonight, qualifying for both and a top 10 shootout for race 1. So plenty of action tonight. We've got a 32 lap race for race 1 and then a 18 lap race for race 2. And I think off the top of my head that works out to be, not quite sure on the sums there. Maybe I should have prepared myself for mental maths quicker. About 120 kilometers and 60 kilometers based on those numbers.
I'll take your word for it. Maths is not my strong suit, least of which whenever we're doing a commentary when we've got various other things on our mind, as Benjamin Dahlia lights it up. Benjamin Dahlia, who's got a bit of real-life experience from the weekend, racing in the 86s, and got himself involved in a little bit of a snafu on track with the collision that we saw over the weekend.
Yeah, that was the what they're calling the pinball crash that's been uploaded to the Supercars YouTube channel. If you have a look at that, Benjamin Dahlia was unfortunately the first on the scene when one of the other cars came across the circuit on the exit of turn 1 after running wide. Unfortunately had nowhere to go and did quite a bit of damage to the front of his Toyota 86. Good to see Benjamin Dahlia still up and about though. He walked from that incident quite nicely. The car unfortunately less so, but at least he's able to get back behind the wheel and hopefully he can get that car repaired and back in the main game or back in the real world for next week. But in the meantime, he's here sitting quite pretty at the moment. He pre-qualified, did he? He did not pre-qualify.
He's inside the top 10, but so he gets a free pass without needing to qualify. So 4th in the championship, Benjamin Dahlia coming off the back of a podium finish in Townsville, which was his first podium finish of the year. So very good job to Benjamin Dahlia. He is definitely a man on the up, as is Luke Rosella, who we mentioned before, who has actually won the last 3 races that he's competed in this championship and then had to sit out the next round in Townsville. But he has been usurped by Colin Warwick at the top of the timing screens with a 28.548. Not by a huge amount, I must say. Only half a tenth in that between Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick. But Colin Warwick is also a man on hot form, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast. We're mentioning lots of things earlier in the broadcast so that you know them.
Getting everyone back up to speed. Of course, the track is continuing to rubber in. This has been a very short practice session in the official server tonight. So remember we were talking about Luke Rosella's lap being a 29.2. So already we've eclipsed that by 0.6 of a second. So the lap time's already starting to come down. We should see more and more pace hit the circuit as the evening goes on and everyone practicing their entries into pit lane there. It's going to be a long... It's a difficult entry because you're coming from such a high speed already and then bringing that all down very quickly. I think it's a 40-kilometre pit lane speed limit here at Sydney Motorsport Park. So it is indeed. And when you're coming from already 200 kilometers per hour down to 40 kilometers per hour, there's a lot to be gained and a lot to be lost by either being a little too aggressive and missing your braking point, or being a little too conservative and losing a little speed, losing your speed before you even get to the marker.
Dane Liccardo here in this practice session, which has ticked down to 0 by the way, but he's spending a lot of time in Lewis Wedding's mirrors there. These two got into a bit of a snafu in the first round of this championship, which elicited one of the more famous moments of your commentary career, at least certainly from our point of view. Madbird absolutely loved what you said in response to that. Do you think they've buried the hatchet?
I certainly hope so. I think Dane has shown that he has pace as we finish the practice session. Dane has shown that he's a very quick driver. He's just got to sort of work on that temperament, whereas Lewis is a driver who... maybe not quite as outrightly fast, but yeah, a lot of seniority in that car. So hopefully they sort out their issues.
A wily old fox.
Indeed.
Is Lewis Wedding. Let's turn our attention now to the racetrack itself. A 3.93 kilometre anti-clockwise little circuit. The qualifying record, as aforementioned, is held by Dayton Warren, none other than 26.215. And the race lap record, he wiped a few tenths off that. Here's the middle sector, heading our way now into the final sector. And no surprises at all who the previous pole sitter was when we raced here last year. Dane Warren basically went through and swept the boards at more or less every track he visited last year on his way to his first Automobilista Supercars Championship title.
Indeed, that's a graphic you can get very familiar with over the next few weeks. Maybe we'll have to change the names for the previous winners and the previous pole sitters, but otherwise that is the tale of the tape, really, at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's an interesting mix of sectors here. It's a very fast, very flowing circuit. A bit of elevation change to keep the cars, keep the drivers really interested, and a good mix of slow corners, cutbacks, and a lot of passing opportunities as well as we get qualifying underway. A 5-minute qualifying session.
They do not have enough lock to get out, evidently. I can see one of the Tamiya cars in the background struggling. There is Corey McFarlane in the foreground of that shot in the Bow Repairs car, who I didn't actually see whether he managed to set a time in that qualifying session, but the fastest pre-qualifier in the pre-qualifying session was 27.461.
Yes, indeed. The other pre-qualifiers, Hans Brunswick, Alex, which I think is that Alex Cattle, perhaps? What you got? Alex there. Dane Liccardo, Ben Hall, Steve Warwick, Turmo, Brendan Ross, Cameron Parrott, who I think is going to be starting from the rear as he wasn't able to qualify. He made mention prior to the session tonight. And then Rhodey, who joins us once again, Kai Jones, and Lachlan Horan, who is, we're not quite sure if they've made it into the server, but either way, it looks like we've got a 2021 car grid.
That's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see that everyone's raring to go to start, to get back into it, of course, to start the season off once again.
Zach Baker has just dropped out of the session for whatever reason, we don't know, but that has left no one in the pits. Everyone now out on the racetrack. The man you're looking at here, Dane Liccardo, is the first man who got out of the pit lane, and so he will be the first man to set a time. Behind him, there's an absolute gaggle of cars coming through the final sector at the moment. How they're going to find any space whatsoever, I do not know.
Well, we've got eyes at the moment on Dane Liccardo as he pitches the car through turn 1, 215 kilometers per hour on the apex there, gives it a little bit of sideways action, and then brakes hard into turn 2. Very long double apex corner here, turn 2, the left-hander. Gets the second apex quite nicely, but it looks a little nervous in the rear as he cuts the car back for turn 3 and over the hill. Very nervous in the rear there as he comes over the hill, and he'll hit the first sector marker at some point. We didn't quite see it. It's a 28 flat for Dane Liccardo, the first sector, and then here's the fun bit of the track through turn 5, over the concrete apron and into turn 6. The reprofile of turn 6 opened up a little more to allow more passing opportunities. Uses a lot of curb there to get the car pivoted. Again on the apron, then over Corporate Hill through this sweeping turn 7, really cool corner here, and then into turn 8. We'll get the second sector mark just on the exit of this downhill hairpin.
Just quickly, quite a few sector times coming in. The fastest so far set by Colin Warwick of a 27.7, so they're coming in thick and fast. Luke Rosella was only a couple of tenths adrift of Colin.
Liccardo 104 to the second sector, and then he's gone very wide through the final complex of corners, making full use of the apron on the exit of turn 12, and then down this long straight. Initially downhill and then comes back up to meet you. He will be the first one to set a time, assuming that that wasn't chalked off for track limits, and it is a 29.4. But Colin Warwick is the one who's setting the quick sector times further back, and he goes
he
second.
Lost time.
Rosella actually pipped him at the post.
He did. So Luke Rosella, who was 2 tenths down on Colin Warwick through the first sector, has definitely found time through the rest of the lap. Let's have a look at how they compare. Corey, incidentally, got the fastest middle sector by about a tenth or so ahead of Luke Rosella. So no one driver has more than one fastest sector time, which is good to see. It means it's a competitive field.
And there's a significant chance that a lot of the guys who are setting laps just at the moment, the likes of Brodie Steen, Hans Brunswick, Lewis Wedding and Rhodey, are only going to get a single extra flying lap here because of the length of the track and the time left in the session. Only a minute left in the session, so that session's gone absolutely quick as anything.
What we should also be looking at is who's on the bubble. So this is to decide the top 10 for the shootout. So Alex is currently the man in danger in 10th place. If anyone jumps ahead of him, he will drop out of the top 10. So what are the lap times looking at? We've had some personal best times come in. Brendan Ross set a personal best, but it wasn't good enough. 2.2 seconds. It's quite a big gap between 11th and 12th. But can David Nedovich jump his way up into the top 10?
Yeah, so Alex Cattle's time on the bubble is a 1:29.675. So Nenadic is...
Gone
sorry.
off. David Nenadic has just gone off onto the grass, so he's not going to improve on this lap. Does he have time to exit the final corner and get to start his next lap? The server seems to be stuttering a little bit there. He's got 13 seconds. I think he's backed out of it and he's coming into the pits. That might be it for David Nenadic.
Yeah, because he's ruined the run down the straight, so he's done. So he won't have a chance. Hans Brunswick stumped into the 10, so now it is Lachlan Burke on the bubble at 29.508. And he's had a very slow middle sector, so I don't expect him to improve this lap either.
Alex has gone off and he's lagging quite badly, so he's not going to improve. Brendan Ross, the server is actually experiencing quite a bit of lag at the moment as well. So this is a return of the lag issues that we saw at the beginning of last year. This is very unfortunate. We thought that they'd sorted the lag issues because it was happening usually when there was 25 or more cars, but not so much with just the 21. So this is worrying. Let's hope that it doesn't continue for the rest of the night.
Brendan Ross is finishing off his lap though. He's set a personal best middle sector as he comes to the line. And we have no idea what's happening because of lag, unfortunately.
No. Not what we like to see, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope it's just a blip on the radar. The server has been pretty much behaving itself up until this point, but these pictures kind of speak for themselves as we see the Ultimate 9 cars trying to circulate in formation, but one of the most bizarre types of formation I've ever seen.
It's certainly not your fighter squadron over the main straight at the end of the national anthem, is it, Stairs?
I wonder if this is part of why Sean Allen couldn't get into the server.
And it seems to be afflicting both of our broadcast cameras as well. So is that actually one of the BP Ultimate sponsored cars, one of Brendan Ross's machines in the pit lane as well? So it looks like the server's come to an end. We're just checking. It looked like Brendan Ross did improve on that lap, but not enough to get into the 10. We'll give you a quick run through of the top 10. We can see it on our screen at the moment. It's Luke Rosella from Colin Warwick, Kurt Stenberg, Hans Brunswick, Brody Steen, Will Newell, which is a new name to me at this stage. I'm not sure we've seen Newell before, but he's jumped into the top 10. Benjamin Dahlia in 7th with his Race Honours teammate Alex Cadell in 8th. Dane Liccardo in 9th, and Lockie Burke just scraped into the 10. It was David Nenadic on the bubble, Brendan Ross in 12th, Turmo, Ben Hall, Nathan Higginson, Rody, RSM Latino, Steve Warwick, Lewis Wedding, and Zach Baker. And actually, Corey McFarlane has just rejoined the server, which shows his time as the top time, which means that Lockie Burke misses out in 11th, and Dane Liccardo just scrapes in to the top 10.
Well done to Dane Liccardo. We are getting word from Brendan Ross, who has replied to us in the main series discussion channel on the Discord, saying that it definitely was the server, not just us. We tend to have a bit of an idea here because we do have two separate computers running on this server, so we can tend to tell if it's the computer itself or if it is the server by the fact that it is happening to both of our computers at the same time. So as you can see there, the server, the game has gone back to the menu, suggesting that the server has been shut down, and presumably they will start a new server for us to get our shootout session underway.
So a quick fire first session straight out the box. A few surprises in that session. I think Dane Liccardo was very lucky to survive on the bubble there. David Nenadic will be a little disappointed that he didn't get that last lap hooked up. He only got the one flyer in the end, and it wasn't good enough for him to stay in the 10. Intriguing to see Steve Warwick, Lewis Wedding, and Zach Baker miss out on the top 10. They will be fighting their way through the field in race 1. But before race 1, we do have the small matter of a shootout to figure our way through. And shootout's always an interesting, enthralling session, isn't it, Stairs?
Definitely. I always like these shootouts where we have slightly larger servers, because it means that we have the opportunity to have one of those qualifying sessions where people do miss out on the server. They're not just dropping one person from the shootout. They're actually having to fight to get into it, which makes those shootouts more competitive.
We got word through from the admins that the server hasn't been restarted in a while, so it is probably suffering a little bit of runtime fatigue. Is
First
that
day jitters.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's probably the biggest gap we've had since the mid-year break, and even the mid-year break I think is shorter than the gap that we've had because we haven't raced since July. It's now November. That's quite a long time. Best part of 4 months.
Jeez, it's November as well. Wow, where did this year go?
Yeah, it's an odd sort of year. 2020 seemed like it was the year of two halves, where the first half really dragged, and I don't know if it was different for other people, but it definitely felt like it sped by towards the end of last year. But then this year was a bit different. It definitely has been back to sort of status quo in terms of the year blowing by.
Yeah, full steam ahead. And unfortunately not quite full steam ahead with the server. They're still just getting everything put together for it, so that way we can get the shootout underway.
Yep, and it's fully understandable. Both servers, both of the server admins dealing with some real life issues as well, and just getting back from work. And I can very much relate to that. Getting back from work in time to start the broadcast. I feel like I have some parallels here.
Yes.
With Stenny getting home in time to start the server. So if that is all that was causing the problem, then we should be laughing once they get that reset. It appears that it has been reset, so we'll be loading into it shortly for the shootout.
In the meantime, if you are looking to follow on with the shootout times as they are happening, you can of course jump into the live timing, which is you'll have to remind me of the link, Stairs, because it's different to the one that I'm used to spruiking.
Yeah, rsmclanau.liveraces.com is the link, and you can get all of the live timing, but we probably shouldn't be talking about that now because they won't be watching it live.
This is true. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I had completely forgotten about that.
And if you go on there, you'll probably find spoilers for the race that you're about to watch because the race results might be up there. So, but keep the link in your bookmarks for Bathurst because by Jove, it'll be useful then.
Absolutely. I had completely forgotten we weren't live.
I should take that graphic off the broadcast as well.
This is true.
Incidentally, speaking of mistakes with the broadcast, you'll notice that our pre-roll vision here is a Sydney night track, but we are racing in the day because there is a couple of issues that we are yet to resolve with the Mustang. I believe it's the headlights which cause the game to crash, so that's why we're running in daylight instead of at night time. But these are all these little things that you just don't consider when when you're outside observer. So much work goes into these mods. Not just the on the night action that you see, the liveries and all of the servers getting set up and skipping through to the next session, restarting sessions. There's all of the work that goes on behind the scenes, getting these cars up and running, bespoke assets, all the racetracks that are quite a few of them exclusive to this championship. So kudos to all the people who put in the hard work to get those up and running.
Absolutely, it is a monumental task, and especially after a prolonged break as well, getting all the ducks in a row to hit the ground running, it's quite an achievement. And even with these still little niggly issues, it's something that must be celebrated. The fact that we're straight back into it, hopefully straight back into it. Looks like we're getting the last little pieces of the puzzle back together before we get ready for the shootout.
Yes, they're just loading everyone into the session. I believe it'll be Dane Liccardo first out on track, as he was 10th in the list. Unfortunately, the list has disappeared because the server got reset. So we will see if we can get that back. My colleague in Michael Zalavari is looking to bring that back up.
And so we do have the qualifying results back in front of us. and it was Dane Liccardo that finished 10th. It looks like it hasn't been properly finalised.
I think that list we're looking at doesn't have everything there because it has Corey at the top, so I don't think that was the case, was it?
I think he left the session just as the session ended and then came back into the service. That's why his time wasn't initially there when we first ran through.
Did he set the fastest time in that?
Yes, I believe
must have
so.
missed that while I was looking at the bubble. Well done to Corey, because there's some congratulations that have not been delivered by us in reference to that. So well done indeed. So it looks like we have 19 cars in the server at the moment. No one on track just yet. I think they must be just putting all their ducks in a row. It is currently in a practice session, so they may decide to roll that forward into a qualifying session in order to do the shootout in a qualifying session. Because when the server has these setups, generally it's sort of preloaded with whatever you started with in terms of practice sessions, which is when we first start the night, we have a 15-minute practice session, and then that gets skipped forward into a qualifying. So they have to go through that process of skipping through the practice session again to get into the actual qualifying session itself.
So just a quick look at the qualifying times that we have in front of us now at the moment, Stairs. Who's the surprise that you see, or if there's any surprise that you see in that list that you maybe would have expected to be in a different position?
Well, I think Hans Brunswick's done very well. He's got up himself pretty close to Kurt Stenberg in that session, but not even a tenth separating Kurt Stenberg and Hans Brunswick, who's clearly been putting some time in. He's a guy who kind of started off as a bit of a hobby racer. He's a very talented commentator in his own right, and does a lot in the Victorian State Series circuit racing series. It's an acronym that I always get wrong, and when they've been able to run in the last throughout the last 2 years, he's definitely been involved in that, but more so in recent times, turning his hand to racing in the ASR championships, and it's good to see him here in ASC as well, building up his sim racing experience, which is really only quite recent for him. I remember speaking to him, and he didn't have Automobilista yet. I first met him in 2019 when I went over to Victoria to do some commentary there, which was seems like a world ago now. Yes, that's my rambling on Hans Brunswick. He's got himself on pace there with Kurt Stenberg in this session, so well done to him for that.
That's a very impressive result, actually sandwiched between Kurt and Brody Steen. So that's a fair pair of drivers to get sandwiched in between. I'm more so surprised that Steve Warwick has had a bit of a nightmare. He's actually qualified outside the 107% time, as we're now looking at Dane Liccardo in the shootout session. So Steve Warwick will be starting from the very back of the grid. But now all eyes focus in onto the shootout. One lap, one chance. That's all you get. One shot, one opportunity.
Your opportunity.
Yes.
This opportunity comes once in a race night, yo. All eyes turn to... That's the hardest thing, I think, about these shootouts, is that there's all these unseen eyes looking at you, and as much as you try and put that out of your mind, you can't sometimes. Maybe some of these guys can, but whenever I've done one lap qualifying, I've been very acutely aware that everyone is watching every little snap of oversteer of my lap.
And so we've got the eyes on Dane Liccardo as he starts his lap. Maybe he can feel our eyes on him as he dives into turn one. We saw in qualifying that car suffer a bit of oversteer as he put the throttle down nicely through turn one, and now into turn two. A little pinch of the inside front brake.
Didn't trouble the apex there, but he actually lit up a bit of a late apex and then actually lit up the rears in the exit there.
First sector time just the exits turn 3, plunges down the hill with brakes into turn 4, and we've got a sector. It's a 28.1 to the first sector.
Not bad, not bad. We saw 27s from the likes of Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella. Late 27s they were, so 3 or 4 tenths adrift in the first sector.
It looks like he's got the car a lot more settled than he had initially in qualifying. There's not so much of the happiness in the rear as he tucks the nose in through Corporate Hill. Not using all of the road, swinging back over to the left of the track for this turn 8 hairpin that drops downhill. Again, not using all of the track, using the very last part of the concrete apron as he hits the second sector marker, 104.6. And we saw through this final sector, he likes to get very wide over that apron and try and elongate the straight as much as he possibly can. Controls the wheel spin onto the main straight, and then it's full power down the whole way down. Dane Liccardo, he'll set the first time in the shootout, and it is a 29.4. So that is the marker that everyone has to chase.
I wonder if the track evolution got reset, because 29's more like the times we saw at the beginning of the practice session just before.
It's actually not too far away from the time he set in qualifying. A 29.2 was his best lap to get into the shootout, so he's done a very good job of getting close.
It's always a good thing when you get somewhere near what you've managed to do in a practice session when you've had plenty of opportunities to get a lap down. Or a qualifying session. When I say plenty, it was 5 minutes, so it wasn't actually quite so luxurious in terms of the amount of time they had available to them. But the shootout lap is another story. As we turn our attention now to Alex Cattle.
Very
wide,
very much more narrow on entry there to turn 2 compared to Dane Liccardo when he missed that second apex, hugging the apex and the right hand side of the track. Ooh. Through turn 3. Let's see how that first sector compares. And I suspect... Oh, it doesn't look like we've got a first sector time. Maybe he's...
track up.
I'm not sure where that track up would have been, though.
He's got a time on the live timing. It's a 28.414, which is about 3/10 slower than Dane Liccardo's was. So maybe it was just the game didn't show us.
Classic AMS things. It's looking smooth, though, for Alex Cattle. It's not looking necessarily... pointy, which is something that he might need to tune into that car as he comes through the hairpin, but it's looking smooth. He's not really suffering too much oversteer. It looks like he's suffering more understeer as he exits the hairpin. We'll see a second sector mark. It's a 105 flat, so it's still 3/10 down with the last sector to go.
And maintaining pretty much that gap. We haven't seen track extending being too much of an issue in that sort of final sector asphalt apron. It seems like the game is reasonably forgiving there, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem as he comes to the line to set a 129.8, so he stays inside the 130 bracket and pretty much holds the margin. Dropped a little bit of time in the final sector, but a solid lap there for Alex Cattle as we now turn our attention to his Race on Oz stablemate in Benjamin Dahlia.
So the green example of the Race on Oz machine. We saw Alex Cattle suffer a bit of understeer through a lot of key parts in the circuit there, most notably turn 2 and turn 8. So I wonder if Benjamin Dahlia has the car tuned slightly differently, maybe trying to get rid of a bit of that understeer, because at Sydney you really want to balance cars. A lot of flowing sections as Dahlia comes down the main straight to start his lap. Any sort of understeer or oversteer can send you plummeting down the timesheets very quickly.
Benjamin Dahlia throws it into turn 1. A lot of punishment on the right hand side. Tyres there, front and rear. Hits the anchors, the front dips down into turn 2, and very, very wide there as you heard my co-commentator exclaim, "Oh."
Yeah, it looked like he was a bit late on the brakes and decided to narrow off that corner and try and cut back. Didn't do too badly, but it has hurt the lap time. 2/10 down as he sweeps through turns 4 and 5.
So on track currently to split Dane Liccardo and Alex. Actually, that was slower than the first sector set by Alex Cattle, but can he regain some of that time through the middle sector? The difference between Alex Cattle and Benjamin Dahlia's first sector there is that we could see where Benjamin Dahlia lost the time there. He's lit up the rears. He's trying hard to make up for lost time. That looks pretty neat through there. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit, but I don't think that'll be too much of a concern for him.
And he's gained some time back, only 1/10 outside of Dane Liccardo's provisional pole time as he comes through the final sector. He gets a really big snap on there, hit the curb quite hard, and that's unsettled the rear as he came onto the main straight. So it looks like that might have put pay to his efforts to take provisional pole positions there.
He's throwing a condom at the waitress. There is rubber on the apron. He slots into second place. He's done pretty well there, actually, to go ahead of Alex Cattle as we turn our attention to Will Newell in the test car, lighting up the rears on his out lap.
I'm actually quite surprised that Benjamin Dahlia managed to slot between Liccardo and Cattle after that big moment in the final sector. So he must have really carried a lot of speed through that final part of the lap.
Middle sector was the fastest of anyone so far, and that's where he found the time on both Dane Liccardo and Alex Cattle, 36.3 compared to a 36.4 for Liccardo and a 36.5, and that's a high 5.87 for Alex Cattle.
Oh, we got Will Newell now starting his laps. He looked a little squirrely through turn 1. Again, going through with the narrow entry to the first part of turn 2, but really lighting up the rears. Looks like a very tail-happy car as he comes through turn 3.
And this is a Newell name for us as well. We, as you mentioned, Michael, we haven't seen him in the Automobilista Supercars Championship, so he's very much an unknown quantity.
It looks like a very tail-happy quantity at this stage, but he's up on the time to the tune of about a tenth.
A quantity of 97 milliseconds.
Very well done there, Stairs.
Thank you.
Didn't trouble the apex at turn 6 and is really struggling to get the rear of that car settled and pointing the direction he wants. He comes through Corporate Hill. Expect to see a bit of a slide here, and there it goes. It's just breaking away at inconvenient times for Will Newell as he comes through turn 8. We'll see how that affects the sector time, but again, 3, 4, 5 stabs to the throttle there, and he's only up by a tenth heading into the final sector, Stairs.
Yeah, but that's all you need. 66 hundredths of a second. It might not, milliseconds I should say, thousandths of a second. If he can finish ahead of Dane Liccardo, he will go straight to provisional pole, but he will probably need more than that if he wants to not drop further down the field when other drivers set their times. What will the time be for Will Newell? It is very much first for now. He found time in that final sector, so very well done to find a tenth and a half on that lap as he lights it up. And we turn our attention from a very much a newbie in this championship to one of the veteran drivers in this championship, Brody Steen, who's been here since the very, very beginning.
Brody Steen qualified 6th to get into this shootout. Hasn't had a podium finish so far this year, so he will be looking to rectify that. And he's also the first of the Mustangs that we're seeing in this shootout tonight.
Together with Sean Allen, though, teams champions in 2019 and in 2020. Got their work cut out in 2021 to overcome the deficit they have to ZB, but Sean Allen isn't back tonight. He wanted to be, so they've got a lot of work to do to overhaul the ZB guys. How's this lap looking so far, Mike?
Very neat and tidy through turns 1, 2, and 3, but it's not reflected in the lap time, unfortunately, down to the tune of about almost 2 tenths as he comes through 4 and 5. Looks very smooth though, so it's a bit of a surprise to see that the lap time doesn't reflect that as he dives, plunges the front of the car into turn 6.
Being a little bit too conservative, perhaps, is Brody Steen. Let's see how the middle sector fares for our good friend Brody Steen down the hill onto the anchors there. It's a little bit wide of the apex. Probably wouldn't have cost him too much time though. Let's see whether he can find some time, and indeed he does, with the fastest sector time we've seen by some margin actually in the middle sector. So that first sector may be a bit of a blip. Maybe it was the fast turn 1 that didn't agree with him. Everyone gets 2 wheels off onto that apron on the sort of exit of turn 9, entrance of turn 10. Let's see what the live timing will say as Brody Steen crosses the line. He doesn't go provisional pole. What a very up and down roller coastery lap for Brody Steen.
Yeah, slots into second place. Lost a tenth in the final sector, a tenth and a half. And that was enough for him to drop behind Will Newell. Now we've got eyes on Hans Brunswick, the Ultimate 9 Racing 099 car. Second of the Mustangs in this shootout session, and you're surprised to get into the qualifying session, and you regaled us with a great story.
I definitely thought that he would have been good enough to get into the top 10, but he was very high in the top 10,
yes.
And that was what surprised me, how close he was to the likes of Kurt Stenberg, who, in Kurt Stenberg's defense, current championship leader, didn't have a great deal of time to get himself set tonight because he was dealing with server issues. But nonetheless, that is definitely bragging rights. I remember when Michael when Madbird beat Kurt Stenberg in, I think it was I was going to say it was the horsey car race, but it wasn't the horsey car race. It was the
Brunswick's up, by the way, up by 600.
I know, I'm taking way too long to tell this story. It's a very good lap from Hans Brunswick. He beat him in, it was the 3 hours of Suzuka that we did.
Yes.
And Madbird thought that was definitely worth the bragging rights to say that he was, that he had beaten the, at the time, 2019 Automobilista Supercars Championship in Kurt Stenberg. Championship winner in Kurt Stenberg. Meanwhile, back in today's news,
I'm sure Madbird loves getting that story told and getting a wrap from you, Stairs. And speaking of getting a wrap, Hans Brunswick, 4.1 to the second sector, 4/10 up on the current provisional pole time from Will Newell, using all of
Dakota line.
Yeah, absolutely, the IndyCar line through that final complex of corners. A little wiggle as he brings the throttle up, but this should be a very good lap from Hans Brunswick, and we'll see him get the provisional pole time, will it? Certainly, a 28.8, the first one in the 28s in this shootout session.
Yeah, that's a serious lap there from Hans Brunswick. Very, very well executed indeed. Can the current championship leader usurp that? The number 47, Mick Schumacher's number. Although Kurt Stenberg has been wearing the number 47 since long before Mick Schumacher was on our radars. In any serious way, at least.
Tim Slade's old number, back when he was driving with Stone Brothers as well. As Stenberg crosses the line to start his lap, going all the way to the right of the track before pitching it left. Nice and smoothly done through turn 1, and then on the anchors for turn 2. Oh, a little deep there for Kurt. Possibly missed the braking zone just a little bit. Didn't quite get the tyres cycled, but holds it together through turn 3 quite nicely. Just a little bit of oversteer, just getting the tail out, but it reflects very nicely in the lap time. 27.8. That's the first time the 27's the first sector says.
Yes, 2/10. That's a very, very handy very, very handy margin to have indeed for Kurt Stenberg in that first sector. So let's see if he can extend that on the current pole sitter in Hans Brunswick. Looks like Hans Brunswick is going to be unseated, and I'm sure that would be no surprise to Hans Brunswick.
Yes, this has been a very smooth lap from Kurt. All the little tickles of oversteer has actually helped him get that car around.
He's actually lost a little bit of time there.
And did have a mega middle sector, so it will all come down to how this final complex of corners works.
Yes, he did have an MMS, so let's see whether Kurt Stenberg can have an MFS.
Ooh.
That wasn't particularly conducive to an MFS. That is a mega final sector. That little wiggle out of the final corner there, but it is good enough actually still to improve his time. He's extended through the FS, that is the final sector, as Kurt Stenberg, and he goes into provisional pole position on a 28.715, and we go to CW to see if he can have an ML. That's a mega lap from Cornwall.
Oh, brilliant. It doesn't look like the overall qualifying record is under threat. Remember, that is a 26.6, and
we did watch the circuit.
This is true.
Effectively, by restarting the server.
So we might have to have a look at that one in the second qualifying session coming up later tonight. But it is Colin Warwick, the other series admin, who is running down the main straight at the moment. He qualified in third to get into the shootout, and will be looking to usurp his partner in crime in terms of the administrative duties in Kurt Stenberg.
Told us he's on a heart monitor tonight. He did have heart surgery earlier in the year, and I do wonder whether this was in the doctor's orders. Doing some racing. It is, of course, what he loves doing, and what better thing to do when you're trying to stay healthy than what you love doing. But let's hope he doesn't get too tense tonight in any serious battles, because I would worry. And that is a very tight margin indeed through the first sector.
I was about to say, if the margins are going to be like that all night, it might raise the heart rate just a little bit as Warwick fires out of turn 5 into turn 6.
thing is, he's very unaffected by it all. After one of the most incredible battles that we've seen that makes my heart race through the ceiling, he seems to be, oh, that was just great fun. And I love that attitude.
It's all just a laugh, isn't it? All just about having fun. And Warwick's having plenty of fun here. Lights up the rears on the exit of turn 8, but did get the front tucked in nicely, and he's 2/10 up, heading into the final complex of corners. This has been a very nice lap from Colin Warwick. He did have a MMS.
He's had an MFS, an MMS, and another MFS. But the first F stood for first sector, and the second F stood for final sector. Well, we wait and see what the time will be. It is very much a ML, a 28.487. I might park the acronym.
Yeah, I think we've beaten the horse to its completion.
But Colin Warwick isn't parking it anywhere aside from provisional pole position right now. 28.487, 2/10 ahead of his admin stablemate in Kurt Stenberg. Colin Warwick looking very, very good indeed. But Luke Rosella, the other man who left the first part of this championship in a hot vein of form, and missed the previous round that we had in Townsville due to some university exams. So he's a young man with a bright future in terms of his education and a bright future in terms of his sim racing abilities as well.
Down the main straight for Luke Rosella. He was the second fastest man in qualifying, setting a 28.1. If he can replicate that, he will jump to provisional pole position. Nice through turn 1, using all of the available curb, and gets the nose tucked in for turn 2. Hugs that first apex quite nicely, and finds the second apex without too much wheel spin, just a little bit of nervousness in the rear, but it looks plenty fast so far for Luke Rosella as he drops off the hill in that Mustang and is up to the first sector. 0.04 of a second the gap between himself and Colin Warwick to the first sector as he swings through turn 5 using all the curb on the inside and the apron on the outside and the tarmac on the outside and the grass on the outside before jumping
and
into
the 3
turn 6.
trailer park girls on the outside. So Luke Rosella doing very, very well indeed. This middle sector will be very much telling in the battle for pole position between Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella. I can never get by just saying one of their names. It has to be the entire full name. I don't know why. Once upon a time it was only surnames. But it is a 10.5 for Luke Rosella. He has taken a huge chunk of time through that middle sector. That is by far the fastest middle sector that we have seen. I say by far, it's only a 10th, but a 10th is a lot when you've got such fine margins that you're dealing with. To the line for Luke Rosella. Will the time be good enough for provisional pole position? It is, and by quite some margin, a 28.144. His final sector was mega.
His entire lap was mega. He almost replicated the lap that he did in qualifying to get into the shootout. He did a 28.12 in the qualifying and a 28.14 in the shootout. So as far as getting on balance to your qualifying time, that is mighty close.
That is mighty close. But what's interesting there is Colin Warwick was a lot closer in the qualifying. He lost
effectively 3/10.
Yeah, 3/10. So Luke Rosella's consistency is key there. Colin Warwick just wasn't quite able to match it, and there wasn't any super obvious point for me where Colin Warwick lost that time. Maybe he was just being slightly conservative, being that the qualifying position isn't as important as race position. We're looking at Corey McFarlane now, who was the fastest pre-qualifier, and well, he has to pre-qualify because he's not in the top 10 in the championship. He's a relative newcomer to this championship, but he's showing at the moment all the credentials that he might be in this fight as well. And with the times that we're looking at there, he looks like he might split Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick.
His first sector time actually just a little bit slower than Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg for that matter, but in the 27s, which is significant to be in that top group.
27.8 he set in that qualifying session, so if he was able to come anywhere near that, he would jump into pole position, but doing that in a shootout lap, as we've discussed, is another thing.
Absolutely. It has looked pretty nice though. He's got that front of the front of the car tucked in nicely through turn 8. And it's 1/100th of a second to the second sector mark, so it is...
He's clawing back.
Tiny margins, a bit of a slide through turn 9. gets it all caught up and through the final complex of corners. Is that unsettled the car too much? Has that ruined the lap time? It's going to be mighty close.
I think he carried a lot of speed through there. He's taking a different line on the inside of the track that we've seen most people do. It's not enough. He's lost time in the final sector, but he has split Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick. He's on the front row. He's in second place. That is a mighty effort from Corey McFarlane.
And that wraps up the shootout stairs. Another quick fire session. It is Luke Rosella who takes pole position for tonight's race one, a 32-lap race one, ahead of Corey McFarlane, Colin Warwick, Kurt Stenberg, Hans Brunswick, Will Newell, Brody Steen, Dane Liccardo, Benjamin Dahlia, and Alex Cattle is the session. Quite an exciting way to finish off that session. That big slide from Corey McFarlane probably lost him a fair bit of time, but Luke Rosella's final sector was absolutely unmatched, and he grabs onto that pole position once again.
Oh, absolutely. That's Luke Rosella, what he was doing before he finished up in Townsville. So he only did one of the 2 rounds that we did in Townsville, and he won both of those races quite comfortably. So you might think that Luke Rosella is becoming the man to beat in this championship. We only have a few rounds to go, so he's missed quite a lot of those rounds, which means that he's probably out of contention for the championship. Kurt Stenberg really only has to sort of circulate to wrap that up, one would think. But Luke Rosella, who's currently sat in 6th place in the championship, could find himself moving up 1 or 2 positions before the end of the year. Probably, maybe even up to 3rd, but Colin Warwick is the man in 3rd. He's in good form too.
That would be my guess is his goals for the season. He's got a 250 point gap to overtake Colin Warwick, and with 3 rounds left after tonight, including of course the Bathurst 1000, it's certainly not impossible for that to be the case, as we just catch a bit more action of the cars on the warm-up. So 2-minute warm-up session just to blow out all the cobwebs, make sure all the connections and setups have been loaded in correctly, and do a bit of spins in drift lane for Nathan Higginson there as he exits back to the garage to maybe try that one again. Much better that time, Higo. Higo, of course, renowned in the ASR community for steering predominantly with his right foot.
I see, one of those. So the race that we've got lined up for you, first up is the longer of the 2 races tonight, 32 laps, and there is a compulsory pit stop in both of those races. So for the first race, the pit window, a fairly large window. If you were to think of the race as a wall and the window for the pit as an actual window within that wall, it would be one that takes up a fairly sizable portion of that wall, and you'd wonder about the wall's structural integrity, because the pit window is 31 laps long, or lap 1 to lap 30. I'm assuming that's inclusive of lap 1, meaning you can pit at the end of the first lap.
Imagine someone right down the very end of the pits peeling into the pit lane from the grid.
We have seen this track as being somewhat tyre limited in previous years. I remember last year cars spinning off all at the final corner because their tyres just could not make. They were that close to being able to come into the pits and change their tyres, but they were so out of tyres that it had basically spat them into the fence. And Madbird and I were very, very confused in commentary until we realised that they had turned the tyre wear up for that particular race. Just looking at my notes here, I can't see anything specific about any out of the ordinary change to tyre wear, so I think it must be at normal. Fuel usage is at times 2 though, which is what we are used to seeing. I still think the race will be tyre limited.
Yes, certainly, and we've seen that because of such a series of loaded corners through turns 1 and 2 particularly, and then of course the final section of corners as well. It really torches the right-hand side of the tyre. Yes, the right-hand side and the right rear specifically. So that's going to be the one to watch. It is Sydney Motorsport Park once again. Well, for the first time this year, but we'll get very familiar with this graphic. Turns 1, 2, and 3 takes you over the hill through that tight left-hander, and then towards turn 3. Second sector starts with turn 4 and 5, a really cool part of the circuit. Reprofile turn 6 opened up, and then down the hill, Corporate Hill turn 7, the hairpin at turn 8, and the final sector turns 9, 10, and 11. That bow leg just to bring you back on the main straight. Dane Warren cleaned house last year, taking pole position and the qualifying and race lap records and all 3 wins. This year it is up for grabs across 3 weeks in the ASC Championship.
We're just waiting for the cars to grid up. They haven't yet. Many of them electing still to stay in the pit lane, but our 32 laps on the graphic on your screen. Oh, it looks like we do have cars starting to make their way off the grid, so we will bring you those pictures very, very quickly indeed. Here is your pole sitter. It is Luke Rosella. Behind him, Mike,
is Corey McFarlane, setting the fastest time in qualifying, but not in the shootout. Third place is Colin Warwick for Warwick Racing Team number 53. He's looking to continue a good run of form. Kurt Stenberg will start out of 4th place. He was winner last time out in Townsville and the current championship leader. Will Newell, new to this series, will start out of 5th place. Very impressive run for him to get on into the shootout. And it is Hans Brunswick in the Ultimate 9 Racing 099 who maintained his qualifying position, finishing 6th in the shootout. Brody Steen will start from 7th place in the race on Oz number 2, the only race on Oz car tonight so far. We're looking to see if Sean Allen joins us later on. Dane Liccardo will start in 8th place for Evolution Racing Team. Benjamin Dahlia in the race on Oz number 66, the Green Machine. He's joined by his teammate, the race on Oz number 22, the Red Machine. Lachlan Burke just missed out on the shootout, finishing in 11th in the All-Australian Races number 444. Dave Nenadich also missed out on his final flying lap. He starts from 12th. Brendan Ross will start from 13 in the Ultimate 9996. Turmo will start in the number 51 machine, the blue and black Mustang. Looks very, very cool. Oh, that's actually a Commodore. Oh, my mistake. Ben Hall will start from 15th in the Luke McHugh Racing number 19 car. Nathan Higginson with that heavy right foot will start from 16th. Rhodey from 17th in the 999 machine. RSM Latino will start from 18th. Oh, we've got a spin on the warm-up lap. It is Rhodey. We'll finish off the grid and get back to that. Steve Warwick will start from 19th. A bit of a surprise to see Steve that far back. He missed out on setting a good qualifying lap. Lewis Wedding missed out on qualifying entirely. Didn't set a time. He starts from 20th. Zach Baker as well dipped out of the session. Didn't set a time. And we've got Cameron Parrott who joins just in time for race 1. And that is our 22-car grid for tonight's first race at the Sydney, well, it was going to be Super Night, but it's now just a Super Sprint. Round 8 of the Automobilista Supercar Series.
Good to see some young blokes on the front row there. We're about to go racing for the first time in nearly 4 months. The lights are on, the revs are rising, and we are racing. It was a good launch from Luke Rosella, but the second part of the getaway for Corey McFarlane wasn't too good. Kurt Stenberg got him on the inside, heading into turn 1, and they all get through cleanly so far. Kurt Stenberg immediately putting some pressure on Luke Rosella as they all go ever so slightly deep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide through that first section of corner. Corey just didn't get anywhere off the start. I think the best start, though, was Kurt Stenberg as they filed through turn 3 and down the hill. Now Corey's coming under pressure from Colin Warwick, and Warwick's going to make a dive.
Whoa!
It's very, very tight in the back there. There's a bit of a slide job going on. We're watching from Will Newell's machine as they come through turns 4 and 5. Again, a little bit of a mistake there from Corey. He's going to be under fire from Colin Warwick into turn 6. And they're going to go side by side. Can Warwick get it done? There's a bit of a slide on again. A bit of contact there, Stairs.
Yes, it's been a very rough lap for Corey.
Oh, and he's wide again.
So struggling a little bit, and sticking his nose up the inside is Will Newell. So these guys are ready to race, and Will Newell doing some excellent car control there to just keep the side-by-side action going while he had Colin Warwick on his outside and he lit up the rears. But it looks like he's got the jump back on Colin Warwick, so that is a good move there. Colin Warwick was the aggressor in that battle and ended up losing the position to Will Newell.
So this is already looking like a bit of a cork in the bottle situation with Corey McFarlane struggling to get on the pace of the leaders after that first lap. It is Kurt Stenberg chasing down Luke Rosella out the front. And then that battle pack we just saw before, Kurt very much on the rear. Sorry, Stairs just cut away from that.
Sorry, there was a bit of an overtake action sort of happening on the other screen. It is in these early laps very, very difficult to know where to look. But Kurt Stenberg has lost quite a few car lengths in that battle for the lead. Meanwhile, back behind the cork in the bottle, as you say, is Corey McFarlane with Will Newell and Colin Warwick in hot pursuit. Hans Brunswick holding his own there in 6th place from Dane Liccardo.
So Dane Liccardo's jumped up a position. Brody Steen's dropped down to 10th place behind David Nenich and Benjamin Dahlia. And in fact just gets a position back as we were watching the time screens. But this is where the intrigue is at the moment. Colin Warwick, it just seems to have settled down a little bit as we are struggling a little bit. It's first day back at school for everyone here. As we're
remembering the buttons.
That's the view of the first place battle in the picture-in-picture at the very top. But this is looking very tasty. Warwick is all over the rear of Will Newell, who's all over the curbs.
And wide in the back of that shot goes Hans Brunswick, which might put him under some pressure from Dane Liccardo.
And you might have just seen in the picture-in-picture that Kurt Stenberg got all crossed up coming onto the main straight, so he's dropped from the rear bumper of Luke Rosella a few car lengths back, so that's given Rosella a bit of a reprieve. But someone who doesn't have a reprieve is Corey McFarlane, who's right under fire from Will Newell coming into the first, turn 2 rather. Newell's down the inside. Corey runs it a little wide. He's going to be vulnerable to Colin Warwick as well. Newell gets that position.
Little bit of side-by-side contact there as Will Newell got quite happy on the loud pedal on the exit, and there onto the grass goes Corey McFarlane, which, well, made the rear pucker up a bit somewhat. And I think Colin Warwick's dropping back to save his heart rate just a little bit. Meanwhile, Kurt Stenberg has closed right up the back of Luke Rosella. So after a couple of little mistakes, he's back on pace and set the fastest first sector of the race so far on this lap.
And Rosella's had to go defensive through turn 8, and has actually balked Stenberg quite a bit. He wasn't expecting that. Had to spray the car wide to avoid contacting the rear of the Mustang. These two very good friends. They ran as co-drivers in the ASR Enduro Cups. They know each other's driving very, very well. And so they'll be looking to push each other's buttons, much like Corey is trying to push his button.
Down the inside there of Will Newell, and Will Newell bumped out onto the curb, nearly into the grass, and it's going to hurt his exit speed a little bit. He's trying to make up for it by ducking into McFarlane's, into his strip sleeve.
Side by side through turn 1. That's a bit of a scary prospect. As they come through, they make it out the other side. They just give each other enough racing room. Colin Warwick will be chomping at the bit for this because he's now the one with the best run.
Well, this is a hemorrhaging time to the leaders. They're now 3.5 seconds adrift of the leading duo of Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg because of how much they're battling each other.
But they have stepped away from Hans Brunswick and Dave Nenadich. A big dive from Will Newell. That's a very audacious manoeuvre into turn 4, and that checks up Corey as well.
Yes, very, very ambitious there. Colin Warwick just trying to let him get away, but every time they have one of these little dives, he catches right back up. So he'd be well placed to be further ahead of these. I wonder if he'll chuck something in by going into the pits earlier or something like that to get himself clear, because these battles will stretch out as the race
there's
goes on.
contact!
That's rear contact there, and they've both fed themselves away. That is a gift for Colin Warwick. He'll be thinking there, thank goodness. Warwick looks like he's slowing down to let Will Newell back through. I can't actually see where Will Newell is, to be honest. Is that him in the back of that shot?
I think he's still off circuit somewhere. He's down in 16th, so there's still quite a way for him to go. And we'll see if we can put together a replay of that one for you at home. As Luke Rosella sets the fastest lap of the race, he's now broken out to half a second from Kurt Stenberg. And I think, yes, we're just watching Corey step aside down the main straight to let Will Newell take that position, who's now immediately behind in that position. So we can just see on screen, there's Will Newell sliding in the background. We're just going to find this replay and we'll put it together. right now. So as they came through Corporate Hill, Will just got a little bit wide, was a little compromised, and then slammed on the brakes, and there wasn't enough room there. Corey was trying to get the undercut down to the inside of the circuit, and there wasn't enough room, made contact with the rear of the Holden test car.
Yeah, a bit of a shame. It's good to see people fighting so hard, but obviously they're probably not quite as experienced as some of the other guys we've seen doing hard wheel-to-wheel battles for lap after lap in this championship. So it's unfortunately ended in tears as we rejoin.
Oh, and there's the return of serve!
Oh my goodness.
There's the return of serve. I was just about to say that they were back battling once again, and this time it is Corey that has been spun around. So these guys, after being second and third, fourth, and fifth, are now down in 20th and 21st, and it was just a bit of a check-up, the three-wide situation.
Do you think that was a deliberate return of serve or just a fortuitous situation for Will Newell to get one back there?
I'd hardly call dumping someone that you got spun out by. I wouldn't call that fortuitous.
Well, fortuitous is like, oh, I wasn't going to retaliate, but maybe I will. He's right there.
He is.
We don't like to condone that sort of thing, but sometimes, you know, it might just give the stewards sort of thought of, you know what, play on. You settled it.
Yeah.
You know,
both of them.
Track. We don't really want to see that sort of thing being settled that way, but it is what it is. And they'll learn and evolve from it. They did have some pretty good racing before that moment. As we're looking at some pretty good racing right now, Luke Rosella being put under quite a bit of blowtorch pressure from Kurt Stenberg.
And with the malarkey that's gone on behind them, these guys now have a 5-second lead over Colin Warwick, who sits in third place. Hans Brunswick just behind him, and that's Dane Liccardo entering shot. So that's the next group on track.
To stay on the pace.
Yeah, they're keeping it up. Dane Liccardo's actually gained, I think it's 4 positions from the start, or 3 or 4 positions. So he's done a good job avoiding all the trauma in the first part of the race.
3 positions.
3 positions. And we've also lost Alex Cattle from this race at DNF. Not sure why that is.
Ago that was. Let's see. It was about the same time as this action was happening between Will Newell and Corey McFarlane. But Kurt Stenberg looks close enough to maybe have a go, and it's forced Luke Rosella to take the inside line and defend. Kurt Stenberg's going to try and drive around the outside, but the corner just keeps going left, and you're always on the back foot there because you've got to go so much further if you're trying to drive around the outside. But Luke Rosella currently looking like the slower of the 2 leading cars at the moment. The pit strategy is going to be very influential because they really are tit for tat right now. Fastest lap from Luke Rosella was a 28.8, which is still the fastest lap of the race, but on current form, it is Kurt Stenberg who is about 3 or 4 tenths of a second faster as they circulate now.
And these guys are the only two. These guys are the only 2 drivers to set a lap in the 28, so they are the fastest pair on circuit at the moment. Kurt trying to do the switchback there, taking the high entry, trying to get that low exit. Unfortunately, the track isn't really conducive to making a move through this part here, through turn 9 and 10, all the way over the apron. He looks much quicker here, looks much quicker through this final part of the track.
Can't do anything about it. He's just being checked up on the exit there by Luke Rosella. And are they coming in to the pits? It would be very early on lap 7. No! Oh, he nearly got driven into the wall! This is a Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher situation in Hungary when Barrichello nearly got squeezed into the wall. But Kurt Stenberg was the one who went for a gap that I wouldn't have thought was there. He's going for a gap there that I don't think is there. He's desperate to get through in these moments, and we've also got battles going on further down the field with Dane Liccardo having a look at Hans Brunswick. This is the battle we want to see, though, at the lead. Well, we want to see all these battles, but Kurt Stenberg is going through on the inside there. He will try and hold the inside, but Kurt Stenberg, unfortunately for him, the track goes the wrong way. The next one, he hangs it around the outside. Does he have enough traction on the exit there? It's side-by-side action. This is what we've been missing Week after week, we've been wanting to see this sort of stuff, and week after week, we may well see this action.
A little bit of contact there through turn 6. Rosella very sideways through turn 7. Stenberg's going to go around the outside into turn 8. Has he got the move done? Rosella dives back down the inside. They're really throwing everything at each other here, side by side. Now, this is the opportunity for Stenberg. He's quicker through here. He swoops across the front, and he's going to hold it, and he's going to make it. No, he's not. Rosella goes around the outside himself. Can he maintain the overlap?
His nose in there, and he can cut off the exit there if he can just get the turn in that he needs. And he does indeed get the final corner pass achieved. Meanwhile, back in a little bit further back. No, we can't cut away. We can't cut away. Luke Rosella's having a look down the inside of turn 1, which is a suicide move, but he did sensibly back out of it. Hans Brunswick is still tailing Dane Liccardo.
So they were having a side-by-side battle of their own that entire lap. Liccardo made that move at turn 2, which we just caught a glimpse of before running wide the final corner and inviting pressure from Hans once again. But it looks like Liccardo has finally made that move stick, much like Kurt Stenberg has made this move stick for the lead.
Yeah, so it all hotted up there for as we approach the 1/3 distance in this race. Things are just starting to settle down ever so slightly, but I feel like we're just gearing up for round 2 right now.
And Liccardo having to go very defensive due to the pressure of Brunswick there through turn 6. He's applying the blowtorch as they go through the Corporate Hill complex and into turn 8. It looks to me as if Hans has a bit more pace now that he's following. You get that with some drivers. Some drivers are a carrot. Yeah, they're great followers. When they have something to chase, something to fight, something to battle, they kind of zone in. Whereas they're not quite as comfortable being chased. It sort of acts as a bit of anxiety, like having all the eyes on you during the shootout stairs.
Benjamin Daly looks like he might be bringing himself into this fight as well. And speaking of people bringing themselves into the fight, that last lap where Kurt Stenberg and won't cut away from the Dane Liccardo Hans Brunswick battle, because they are going side by side through turn 1, and somehow are they going to make it without contacting each other? I think they have.
And Hans managed to get the full overlap. Dane dives down the inside once again at turn 2. Is there a tiniest bit of a brush there if Hans can hang? Oh, a bit more than a brush there. There's definitely interlocking wheels as they go side by side through turn 3. It was almost an Ambrose and Scaife moment there. And there's more contact down towards turn 4.
Better drive there from Liccardo and Hans Brunswick. Hans Brunswick I thought had lost
and
out
another
there,
contact.
Yeah, and this is all bringing Benjamin Daly into this battle, who's going to try and drive around the outside. He's got some overlap now with Hans Brunswick. This is now a 3-car battle. He might have the move done on Hans Brunswick, who unfortunately sees himself losing 2 positions in just a matter of a few laps. That is unfortunate for him, but very fortunate for Alex Cattle, and even more fortunate for Dane Liccardo, who's pretty happy with the situation as it is currently.
It wouldn't surprise me at all as we see, I think that's Nenadic and Brody Steen in the background.
And Race on Oz battle going on.
Continually for eternity. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Benjamin Daly even take a crack at Dane Liccardo in the not too distant future as well. He seems to have a bit of a good machine underneath him as we're watching these Mustangs come onto the main straight.
Kurt Stenberg has built about a 1-second lead over Luke Rosella currently, so that's quite interesting to see his pace now that he's been unleashed. Now and Zach Baker going down the inside at turn 1 there. They're going to go side by side. Brody Steen is going to give this one up for a fight. This is for points in the team's championship, and Brody Steen fighting with one hand tied behind his back at the moment because he doesn't have a teammate. The stealth switcheroo for Brody Steen. That is an elegant move from an elegant driver.
Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough to stave off Zach Brown. Well, he's going down the inside once again, though, at turn 4, you know, and it's almost far enough there to get an overlap, but Zach Baker will take that position back. Zach Baker started from the rear of the field, so he's come up the field in leaps and bounds. That must be, what, 13, 14 positions he's made up.
He mustn't have got it back together in that qualifying session. Definitely, that wasn't indicative of his true pace at all. Now, Colin Warwick, who was bringing himself back towards the front 2, has just drifted away from them again. He's now 5 seconds behind race leader Kurt Stenberg. It might be that Kurt Stenberg was being held up quite significantly by Luke Rosella. But when Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg were having that mighty tussle between each other, Colin Warwick closed the gap by the tune of 2 seconds on that lap. So having got himself free of the battle that was holding him up with Corey, who's now down in 12th, and Newell, who is now down in 21st, unfortunately, so he must have some damage or something else that's contributed to his current lack of pace. In fact, he just DNF'd.
Ah, well, there you go. Must have had some sort of more prolonged issue for Will Newell.
That's a shame, but it was definitely a promising start to his ASC career. It looks to me like he might have just decided to call it quits because there's no obvious crash. He's just pulled over the side of the track and gone back to the garage. But he was a minute and 25 seconds in the time, so maybe he was dealing with other issues, potentially some damage from the incidents that we saw earlier in the race.
We got a first pit caller. It is David Nenadic, who is the first one into the pits on lap 12. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Seems a little early, but one would think it might be scheduled to get himself out of some traffic.
Where was he prior to the pit stop? Do we know? It'd be very difficult to say just based on what the information we've got.
I remember looking at the screen. I think he was in 11th or so, because I was just wondering what the point situation would be with the ZB guys, and he comes out just behind Nathan Higginson, who's currently in 20th place. Sorry, 19th place
now.
2 DNFs that we've had in this race.
And just quickly, if we swap back to our other screen, it looks like Zach Baker's actually...
Whoa! Sorry, Nathan Higginson has just completely gone and sailed it wide. Let's have a replay of that, because you're going to wonder what I was interrupting you for, Michael. But just in front of Nathan Nenadic, Nathan Higginson got it all wrong. And it was on the grass, actually, that moment begun. And I think he must have contacted the wall there. It looked like he did.
Surely. And here we are now looking at Brodie Steen. He's actually fallen off the back of Zach Baker, who on the other hand is actually caught up to the rear of that battle we were looking at earlier between Benjamin Daly, who's now made his way past Dan Liccardo, and Hans Brunswick. So that battle now for 4th place has really taken off. Dahlia from Liccardo from Brunswick. So that's just ahead of Brodie Steen. We can see that every now and then, and here's the battle for the lead. Looks like Rosella's actually come back towards.
He was 3/10 faster than Kurt Stenberg on the previous lap, so he's either Kurt Stenberg has run into some tyre trouble, or maybe he made a mistake, or potentially it was Luke Rosella finding a new turn of pace.
Here was that battle I was making reference to earlier. 5th place now, Dane Liccardo coming under the blowtorch once again from Hans Brunswick as they come through the final complex of corners. And Zach Baker...
different lines there.
Yeah. Zach Baker, you can see really on the tail. He's made his way into this battle, and he's actually looking a bit racy at the moment. He might be able to jump Hans Brunswick as they come down the main straight. He got a great run out of that final corner.
Bad news for Brodie Steen.
Oh, up on the curb was Hans Brunswick and managed to keep the car from tipping off of the circuit. Very much compromised his run, but that didn't compromise his entry into turn 2 somehow. And there, he's right on the tail of Dan Liccardo once again. It's the it's like a pendulum. The gap opens and then it closes again. Much like this battle for the lead.
Well, this is definitely close. Luke Rosella currently looking like he has the fastest car. After Kurt Stenberg, for a number of laps, looked like he had the fastest car and was actually starting to break away a bit. Maybe a bit of tyre conservation for Luke Rosella. Kurt Stenberg is now very much the man under pressure as we're very quickly approaching the time we were expecting to see these cars come into the pits. Who is going to be the first to blink in this battle for the lead? In fact, going back to this midfield battle, which just seems to rage on and on and on, could be a very important time for these guys when one of these guys decides to pull the trigger as well. The front two have just passed the pit entry without coming in, so they're going to go on into the 15th lap without stopping.
Very, very close between Hans Brunswick and Zach Baker there. Almost contacts. They all took their differing lines, and it looks like it's going to be Brunswick that jumps the gun first. He comes in at the end of lap 13.
So I'm very interested to see how this plays out for Hans Brunswick. We'll go back to the race leaders to see how they're getting on.
They're getting on like a house on fire out the front at the moment. Last lap around, it was a 29.9 versus a 29.9. So they're very much, indeed, they're almost Siamese twins at this stage of the race. Gap is 0.2 of a second.
I believe they prefer to be called conjoined.
Conjoins, apologies.
Because they're not just from Siam.
But fair enough. We are all about political correctness here at ASC.
I mean, I'm not. Some of the things I've said on broadcast, I could be cancelled 17 times over. But Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosell, looks like there might be an opportunity for a little bit of side-by-side action just a moment ago, but Kurt Stenberg has just pulled it back ever so slightly to about, well, 0.3 of a second.
A car length, if that.
Which isn't as close as it has been.
This is true. This is true. They have, as Madbird...
Is Luke going to be the first to go in?
He is.
Kurt stays in, and Kurt staying long has been something that he has done quite a bit of in the past. So that's very, very interesting to see.
It's the classic Van Gisbergen strategy. Make hay while you've got the track position and the clear track ahead of you, and then cut the field to ribbons on good tyres late on in the race.
Colin Warwick stayed out as well, so the pit callers, like our live timing is showing us pit stops at the moment.
No, but we will see a longer final sector for those who come into the pits. Doesn't look like anyone has at this stage. Everyone electing to continue their battles out on track. I was about to use a great Madbirdism that he loves oh so much, that they are quite often nuts to butts at the front of the field.
Speaking of nuts to butts, Dave Ricardo and Zach Baker, who are still yet to pit. From that battle we saw Hans Brunswick take to the pit lane, and they were all three of those cars occupying pretty much the same point on the racetrack. Benjamin Daly has just broken free of these two, so slightly.
And a bit further back as well, I reckon we should have a quick look at the battle for 7th between Lewis Wedding and Lockie Burke. They're separated by not much at all. As we're scrolling back, here we are. This is the Ultimate 9 racing car number 9 versus the All-Australian Racers number 444, that beautifully turned out black Mustang. They've been at it from pretty much the off and have been moving up the field. Lewis Wedding up 13 places. Of course, he started from the back of the field after not setting a lap in qualifying.
Stenberg has gone around for another lap without pitting. Just look at the sort of middle sector is probably indicative. 36.4 for him. And Luke Rosella hasn't yet set his middle sector, so we'll keep eyes on that very, very firmly indeed to see whether he is taking any time out of Kurt Stenberg.
Rosella has come through as
Lachlan Burke.
36.5 for Luke Rosella in the middle sector.
What did I just say with Kurt Stenberg?
36.4. And it looks like we've had Colin Warwick and Zach Baker come in that last lap as well. So Baker electing to get out of that battle.
Colin Warwick just coming back out onto the racetrack now, joining in 7th, it looks like. He might be able to hold on to that position.
And that's ahead of Luke Rosella. That's Rosella in the background just there.
That is very interesting indeed. That is a mighty quick pit stop for Colin Warwick. So what has he done there? Has he taken less tyres? Because that is a turnaround of about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 5 seconds. So he's going to really defend hard here now as they come into turn 4. He sweeps across the front. He's on cold tyres here. Rosella has had a lap to cycle those tyres up to temperature and pressure. There's contact through turn 5. Rosella's trying to swing around the outside. Colin Warwick's not giving him any room out there as they come into turn 6. He's got to stand firm. He can't let that position slip away.
But if, from Luke Rosella's point of view, he has to get this move done because right now he is going to be hemorrhaging time to Kurt Stenberg as Colin Warwick gets up to pace and Kurt Stenberg has clear track. So this is working out very, very well for Kurt Stenberg and not so well for Luke Rosella.
It's worked out very nicely for Colin Warwick as well if he's able to stand there and get his tyres up to temps and pressures. He's worked out just a car length as they come through the final sector. So nicely done from Warwick. He seems to have held off Rosella at least for now.
Coming coming out of the final corner, so we'll see what the relative pace is like coming out of the final corner. It looked like a good exit for Rosella. He's straight into the slipstream. It's nuts to butts as they come across the line to use the Madbirdism. He's here in spirit. And Colin Warwick going through.
It looks like we've lost Nathan Higginson, or Nathan Higginson's had a problem. He's pulled up at the side of the road between turns 5 and 6.
It looks like he's on the move again, so potentially he stopped to answer a phone call.
And it looks like as well Colin Warwick has managed to hold that position. He's got 1 or 2 car lengths now, so he's looking a little more safe. In that time, we've also had Benjamin Dahlia, Zach Baker, Dane Liccardo make it through the pit lane.
Hans Brunswick is a long way ahead of Benjamin Dahlia, Zach Baker and Dane Liccardo, considering where he was before the pit stop phase.
And that isn't all that surprising. In fact, we have our race leader come in now. So that's Kurt Stenberg in on lap 17. So he's got a 15 lap stint to make it to the end. Trying to work out when Benjamin Dahlia came into the pits. Oh, he's currently on lap 17, so he must have come in on lap 16. As it looks like Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella
was 16 for Benjamin Dahlia.
Beautiful. They're just coming on a bit of traffic in the form of Termo, who hasn't hit yet.
Is on the way.
So this will be the important one for the likes of Rosella and Warwick. There's a lot of straight that they've got to get down before they're able to get into turn 1.
Top right picture in picture there is Kurt Stenberg on the exit of the pits. So this is not going to be quite as close as Luke Rosella would have been hoping for. He's going to have a lead of about 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. In fact, when it shakes out, it's going to be, I can't see right now because it's the fastest lap for Zach Baker. That's a bit of a surprise. 2.5 seconds.
He has just come out of the pit, Zach Baker, and what we missed there as well, Colin Warwick set the fastest lap of the race on his last lap around, momentarily at least. So these guys are really putting the hammer down at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me to see that gap to Kurt come down even a bit further as the tyres have to cycle in.
So this is the bonnet cam of Colin Warwick. This is Kurt Stenberg up ahead. That is probably the best way to visualise the gap right there. At 1.8 seconds currently. But Kurt Stenberg with the freshest tyres on track right now. Your Christmases have all come at once if your name is Kurt Stenberg.
It is so fresh, the hits of spring 2021 connected to that
so
tyre.
Fresh? Is that a thing?
No, I think when downloads and MP3s started becoming more of a thing.
CDs.
Yeah, it killed CDs. It killed various artists, compilations, all that sort of stuff. Because you could just put it on your iPod.
Makes a lot of sense.
Back in the day, you would have been in high school in those days, wouldn't you? Very early on.
What?
The So Fresh years, the mid 2000s.
Oh, I suppose So Fresh. I remember 2002 So Fresh. Had Cleaning Out My Closet by Eminem. Avril Lavigne, Complicated. Yes, Rosella has just bowled it a little bit wide. It was a bit of an ambitious move there, trying in desperation to get past Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick was equal to the task. Very fine little switchback there. And Brody Steen and Dane Liccardo are pretty close on track, so let's try and bring some vision of that.
Oh, it's very, very close. And they were basically on top of each other on the timing screen, and it looks like Brody Steen's just done the work to get that.
Whoa! Dane Liccardo's had that big swapper, but he doesn't seem to have lost any car lengths out of that. Quite a remarkable bit of car control there for Dane Liccardo. He's trying to stick his nose in sometimes, and I think this is where he gets a few people offside. Sometimes he sticks his nose in where there's no opportunity for a pass, and that was one example of that there. So far it looks okay, but he might just want to check that.
Just for the moment, it's very tight run stuff between Brody Steen and Dane Liccardo. Remember, Dane Liccardo prior to the pit stops was in that battle with Hans Brunswick, and Brody Steen was behind that, battling with Zach Baker. So this is a net gain for Brody Steen. And Zach Baker, I think, has actually won out the best of that group because he's now made his way to 5th.
Hans Brunswick ahead of the whole lot of them. I think he's probably won out pretty well himself. Basically running best of the rest at the moment.
I wonder how much Hans has to compromise in the latter part of the race in order to make that strategy work, because you don't get any of these freebies in the pits for free. They're not free either.
So we're guessing that he's not taken 2 tyres, or others have taken 4 tyres, and maybe he's taken 2 tyres potentially.
Or maybe he's short fueled it, trying to whisper his way to the end.
And someone also in that boat is Colin Warwick. And
that's true.
He was 4 or 5 seconds adrift of Kurt Stenberg before the pit stops. Now he's only 2 seconds adrift, and that strategy has jumped him ahead of Luke Rosella, which has been the hugest favour that he could have done to Kurt Stenberg, because it's taken Luke Rosella off his back somewhat.
And then just about to encounter a little bit of traffic, because we've got a yellow flag in sector.
It's one of the Ultimate 9 cars off the track by the looks of it.
And there's one in this shot here, the one about to get lapped. That's Rhodey just ahead of us, and then that one that we would have seen there may have been Brendan Ross or Lewis Wedding.
Just trying to see. My bet is that it was probably Rhodey, so I'm trying to go back through the tape to see if it was.
It's Rhodey. Rhodey's actually getting lapped at the minute, so I don't think it was him. It must have been either one of the other two, Brendan Ross or Lewis Wedding. And I think based on the lap time, it may be Brendan Ross. We've got a fastest lap, Kurt Stenberg. He's flying away at the front.
Brendan Ross currently battling with his teammate.
And, oh, actually, it was Hans Brunswick, because Hans Brunswick's had a 46-second middle sector, so it was the 4th one of those Ultimate 9 racing machines.
We went through every single possibility before we got to Hans Brunswick, didn't we?
And so everything we were talking about Hans Brunswick being the best one out of the pit stops and getting into the best of the rest position, it's all fallen apart.
But the tyre wear, that's the pain that you take, and it may well be that the fact that he's now on quite aging tyres would have contributed to an off if that was indeed what happened. We're going through to try and see if that is indeed the case, and I think what we are about to see will confirm that. Here's a replay. So this is Hans Brunswick just ahead of Zach Baker at the time.
Ooh, and Baker was very lucky.
Very well there to avoid a fairly sizable collision, did Hans Brunswick and
Zach Baker. And it looked like he just got a little too far over to the right of the track and put 2 wheels on the grass in the turn, and that was all that it was required to tip that car in. Now, Brendan Ross is engaged in this battle here with David Nenadich, the other of the ZB Mustangs. We've got 4 Mustangs in a row here. Nenadich, Ross, Wedding, and Burke. You may have seen just before we went to the replay, Wedding move over and let Ross pass, because he seems to be the faster of the pair, and he's throwing gloves, throwing punches, throwing machines, throwing cars everywhere at the moment. He's looking for a way to break into this top 10.
Trying to break into the top 2 is Luke Rosella. He's not having any luck right now, and Kurt Stenberg's setting fastest laps. He's checking out right now, and Colin Warwick is like just trying to hold a bull back with Luke Rosella, who has a lot of pace right now and unable to use it.
And there's plenty of other battles on track. Between these two, as Colin Warwick spins the rears up, we've got another battle for 6th place. Brody Steen and Dane Liccardo, they're continuing their stoush. And then, of course, there was that battle a little further back between the 4 Mustangs that we saw. Everyone's going off. Everyone's chomping at the bit. They've been yearning for this, dying for this. And it's really, really tight run stuff here as Dane Liccardo tries to sneak a move down at turn 6.
Lost actually quite a lot of time on the exit, has Dane Liccardo. Meanwhile, this is the move for 2nd place, almost side by side. Luke Rosella just losing out a little bit on the exit as Colin Warwick is able to get the power down. And Luke Rosella, he's very quickly running out of time. Even if he does get past Colin Warwick now, does Kurt Stenberg have the crucial break that he needs in this race? It would be... Well, he was the last man to win a race in the Automobilista Supercars Championship, but that was not against Luke Rosella, who goes down the inside at turn 2. He's going to have the inside at turn 3, and that may well be what he needs, because he'll have the inside for turn 4, but a little bit of a wiggle on the exit. Sorry, he has the outside, I beg your pardon. It's Colin Warwick who has the inside line, but Colin Warwick is vulnerable here, and that is going to allow Luke Rosella through. I think he might just have the job done now, but can he drive away? Colin Warwick wants to strike while the iron is hot, and the iron is indeed hot.
And it looks like Rosello's just managed to fend off that move through turn 6. Warwick dives over the top of Corporate Hill. He's going to try and have a look into 8, but already there's 2 or 3 car lengths in between the pair, and that allows Rosella to move into second place. Now, to return to your point, is there enough time? Rosella would have burned quite a fair bit of tyre in this battle, because that battle's now been going on since Warwick came out of the pits, which was lap 15. So that's 10 laps, 9 laps that Rosella has been stuck behind the Warwick Racing Team number 53 car. Whereas Stenberg's had the luxury of clear space, clear track ahead of him, and he's pulled out to a 5-second lead, and he's on fresher tyres. So it's going to be quite an equation weighted in Stenberg's favour at the moment, as we've got only 7 laps left of this first race back.
Yeah, it's a tremendous return to racing for Kurt Stenberg. It's also a good... Well, Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick, seeing them on the podium is indicative of the form that we saw before the end of the first part of this championship. It's good to see some new names up there, even if we only saw them for a few laps. People like Newell and Corey. Good battle going on here between Zach Baker and Benjamin Dahlia as well. Zach Baker, who made his way up a number of positions at the start of this race. He finds himself currently in 4th, defending from Benjamin Dahlia.
And then this is the remnants of that battle we were looking at earlier. Brendan Ross, after making his way through, and David Nenadich has cleared off into the distance, and now it is Lewis Wedding firing at the rear of the ZB Mustang number 44 machine. These guys are very tightly placed at the minute. Lewis Wedding, of course, came up from the back of the field, and Lockie Burke as well didn't have the best of qualifyings, so he's looking to get ahead of this pair. Of course, every position that Lewis Wedding or Lockie Burke can get over David Nenadich is less points in the team's championship. So it's Sean Allen and Brody Steen, Brody Steen's in fact in his own battle with Dane Liccardo. He'd be cheering on for Lewis Wedding and Lockie Burke here to try and see them get past David Nenadich.
Yeah, the trouble that Brody Steen has is that points go down a very, very long way in this championship. So David Nenadich has got quite a lot of points, even if he finishes 12th, 13th. It's very, very hard for a single car operator to overcome the points finishes of 2 of his rivals, as David Nenadich bowls it very much wide and will lose 2 positions almost. He was very lucky to actually slot in between there, and was a bit naughty actually to give a bit of a flash of lights there. He gave a bit of a bump to Lewis Wedding, which I don't think was warranted. I think David Nenadich was a little bit rude in the way that he slotted back in there. Something of an unsafe rejoin. He was the one who went wide, but maybe there's something else to that story that we haven't seen.
He somehow managed to make contact with both of them. Now Burke's swung down towards the inside at turn 2. Wedding's run it wide. Nenadich's run it wide. Is
Burke's going to go through and take 2 positions in one corner. Nearly. Lewis Wedding's still on the inside. He's going to somehow hold on to the position, because he is still on the inside and is actually cleared. Goes to the inside a bit early. David Nenadich sticks his nose in. They're all impatient, aren't they? It is racing.
It is the red mist in full force in this little battle pack. We had Mustangs everywhere. It was a bit like Melbourne Cup Day, which is the day that this is going to be broadcast, will it not?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to think that this is the race that stops the nation.
No, that's Bathurst, of course.
Well, at least in November.
That's true.
No, are you saying that Bathurst is a bigger race than Sydney 1?
How could I be so foolish?
I jest. Luke Rosella's ever so slightly pulling away from Colin Warwick. Not quite as much as I thought he might. The initial pace that Luke Rosella might have had on those tyres. But as you said, he spent quite a few laps burning through his tyres trying to get the job done on Colin Warwick. Stenberg just holding steady at a 5.5 second advantage.
I think Rosella is a smart enough racer to know when he's been beaten and when to put the effort in. And surely, absolutely, he's putting the effort in. He's lapping at the same sort of speed as Stenberg, but unfortunately, lapping at the same speed isn't closing that gap. And it is 5.5 seconds. There is 5 laps left. Unless Stenberg's tyres fall absolutely off a cliff, I don't think there's going to be a Rosella fairy tale at Sydney Motorsport Park. Zach Baker, on the other hand, up 17 positions, has his hands full with Benjamin Dahlia, only 4/10 in it between these guys. They've been enjoying quite a little bit of fun at this tail end of the race. Zach Baker, of course, having to process Dan Liccardo, Hans Brunswick, Brody Steen, and pretty much every single other driver on his course up the grid. Benjamin Dahlia keeping him honest, though, as they come across the line to start lap 27.
Back to this battle for a second, because it's not done, I think. Luke Rosella doesn't seem to have an answer for Kurt Stenberg, but I think Colin Warwick might have an answer for Luke Rosella. Because it's just closing up. Luke Rosella making a little mistake here and there, maybe catching some lap traffic at an inopportune moment here and there, and so the net result of it is that Colin Warwick is within striking distance still.
And this pair is just about to come up onto the battle for 16th and 17th, featuring Cameron Parrott and Steve Warwick. And here they are, they're just on screen now. Luke's got the headlights on.
Yeah. How much help do you think Steve Warwick will be to Luke Rosella, given that Colin Warwick is battling Luke Rosella?
We'll find out very shortly. Parrott makes a very good move to the outside, and then there is Steve Warwick, the father, of course, of admin Colin.
No trouble at all for first of those cars to get
Oh,
lapped.
that's really awkward there, right in the middle of the final corner.
Oh.
He's held him up perfectly. This is going to be a great run onto the main straight for Colin Warwick. As they come onto the main straight, Luke Rosella not quite getting the run through that final corner that he needs. Is there going to be enough of a slipstream for Colin to have a dive at turn 2?
Unless Luke Rosella's not very fast through turn 1. Colin Warwick does seem to be able to go a little bit quicker through there.
Really threw it in there. Rosella goes defensive immediately, offering the
lines. Oh, got up on the curve. Is that going to hurt his exit ever so slightly? Colin Warwick doesn't manage to get to turn 3 first because Luke Rosella headed him off at the pass.
And Rosella's been incredibly good in his defensive efforts across all of the series that we see Rosella in, especially ASC. And he's done a great job of keeping Warwick behind just by keeping the car, positioning the car very well, closing out the passing opportunities before they've really even been opened.
If he does finish this in second place, Luke Rosella he'll be, how many? I counted
Ninth straight podium.
9 times on the podium. That's long.
9 straight.
9 straight. He's only been off the podium in 2 of the races that he's competed in this year. So that is a tremendously successful run of form, only matched by Kurt Stenberg in terms of times off the podium. Kurt Stenberg only twice off the podium as well. Although Kurt Stenberg has competed in all of the races up to this point in the championship, Luke Rosella has missed 6 races so far. On to lap 30 out of 32, the closing stages of this race. We might give some airtime to our illustrious championship leader and race leader at the moment in Kurt Stenberg, sporting the orange 47 by virtue of leading the championship, which he currently does by just under 300 points from Zach Baker, who's currently in 4th place. And he's extended that lead to 7 seconds. That's quite a sizable margin.
And I think part of that was the half a second he gained just in the last sector of last lap alone. And we got now Hans Brunswick and Corey McFarlane. Corey on the recovery drive, looks to the inside. Remember Hans
also on the recovery drive after
that spin at turn 5, certainly. But I think Corey has a bit of a fire under his belly, and he's now back into the top 8, which, considering the 2 incidents that he was involved with, both with Will Newell, is quite a good achievement.
One of them was a slight tap, which did more damage to Will Newell's race than it did to Corey McFarlane's, but still, it was 2 incidents, as you say.
And so he's made his way back into 8th place. It'll be hard pressed for him to progress any further. Dan Liccardo is a further 6 seconds up the road from him. Zach Baker and Benjamin Dahlia is the other close battle.
I was just going to do a stop take while we've got a time. Some people who haven't had some airtime yet. Brendan Ross in 10th place. He's pretty lonely at the moment, but pretty much 10 seconds behind and in front. Lachlan Burke, here's his battle with Lewis Wedding.
And they both made their way past David Nenadic. So, in fact, Burke's made his way past both of them. We saw that, didn't we? We saw that malarkey on the exit of turn 3.
There was quite a few malarkeys.
Oh, speaking
Huge
of
lock
malarkey.
up there, as Lewis Wedding gets a bit of a gift there with Lachlan Burke going very, very wide as a result of locking his front tyres there. So behind this battle that rages on, David Nenadic is in 13th place. Termo is in 14th place, and he's got a fairly reasonable, lonely stretch of track to himself at the moment. Ben Hall in 15th place with Bunnings sponsorship and the Great Northern sponsorship on that car. Quite a well presented livery, I think. Steve Warwick, we saw him involved in that battle, having to jump out of the way for the leaders as they came through. Cameron Parrott involved in that as well. And then behind him, RSM Latino looking like he's catching up and wanting to make that 3-car battle as it stands. We've got Brody in 19th place, the last guy on track, and just letting
His teammates
by getting onto the grass. Well, as long as they know where he's going, that's the main thing. Back to race leader Kurt Stenberg.
And he had to do it the hard way tonight. He worked very hard, a great start off the line, and that was what saw him catapult into 2nd position. And then it was a battle between himself and Luke Rosella in the early part of the race. He ended up getting the upper hand and just ahead of the pit stops, and then powered away after the pit stops. But this battle isn't over yet. Just as the start of the last lap, Zach Baker versus Benjamin Dahlia. Benjamin almost making the move there at turn 2. Baker,
who's up 17 positions, it has to be said, from where he started. It's been a hell of a race, but maybe he's struggling with tyres.
Both of them struggling with tyres.
Who is struggling with tyres less, though? That's the question. Benjamin Dahlia, who's admittedly also up on his starting position, not quite as much, is trying to get that position on Zach Baker. They are struggling.
Here's the dive. He's going to go all the way over. Zach Baker goes all the way over to cover him off. He's going to be narrow on the exit. This is going to be the opportunity if Dahlia can get his nose up the inside as they go over Corporate Hill. It's going to be very close. They're side by side. There's contact in the middle of the corner, but we're going to have to leave it to watch Kurt go across the line.
And Kurt Stenberg is going to be victorious after a 4-month hiatus. He returns to winning ways to extend his championship lead. What a great win there from Kurt Stenberg. We'll return to this battle to see how that shakes out, but Luke Rosella is going to finish 2nd. It looks like Colin Warwick had tyre dramas towards the end as well, because he is definitely dropping time. He finishes 3rd though, about 6 seconds adrift of Luke Rosella, so I would say that was tyres. Meanwhile, coming across the line, as we see, Zach Baker holds off Benjamin Dahlia for 4th place. A good little battle going on there.
And it was the small section that we missed was both of them getting some drift action through turn 8. In the end, it was Zach Baker who just had the tyres beneath him to get to the end. Corey McFarlane in 8th. He'll be ruining what was possibly a better result. Hans Brunswick crosses the line in 9th, ahead of his teammate Brendan Ross, who had the pace in the latter half of the race, making his way into a top 10 position, up 3 positions, which is very, very nicely done. And then this battle between Lockie Burke and Lewis Wedding looks like it's going to go the way of Lockie Burke in the late stages.
Not by much though, a couple of car lengths. Good job there for Lockie Burke ahead of Lewis Wedding. So he got that position back after relinquishing it early, early in the final lap with that little lock-up. So some unseen battles happening there as Termo finishes in 3rd place.
13th place.
Apparently I can't see the 1. David Nenadic in 14th place. I think he was 13th a moment ago.
He must have dropped very aggressively on the final lap. In fact, he had a shocking last lap. That must be tyre dramas all the way around. Ben Hall come across 15th, last man on the lead lap. Then Steve Warwick, Cameron Parrott and RSM Latino finishing their battle all the way to the very line. They were 3 wide across the final straight. And Rhodey is the last man to finish the race. We had 3 retirements. Alex Cattle early on in the race. Will Newell gave up the ghost after a few instances of contact. And Nathan Higginson, we didn't see what happened to Higginson, but we did notice him stop at the side of the road. But here is our championship leader, our race winner, extends the gap once more. He has picked up exactly where he left off in Townsville and takes home the first race back in round 8 of the ASC Championship.
With Zach Baker finishing 4th, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say that Kurt Stenberg will have grown the lead of his championship beyond 300 points now.
Yes.
Which would mean that he has a full round advantage as it stands. So that means that he could potentially take a week off and still be in the lead of the championship. Not that he would do that. And of course, that would mean Zach Baker would have to win all of those races to get 300 points back, which is no guarantee, of course. Zach Baker yet to actually win a race in the ASC Championship.
Oh, there you go.
But I'm sure that day will come. He's been up there. And I feel like his shining day in ASC was the 2019 Bathurst 1000, where he set the fastest lap, which is still an ASC record for Bathurst.
Ah, there we go.
Wasn't beaten last year. The track, of course, was changed, so it was technically a different version of the track, but the race records are still based on the race itself, the racetrack itself, not the mod. At least that's the way I see it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It is confusing as each series and each year brings along its own iteration of the circuit and how much continuity is there in those circuit records. But at least for the moment, Zach Baker can say he has the Bathurst fastest lap. But Kurt Stenberg can say that he has the race win tonight for the first race. Ahead of Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick. Zach Baker took home 4th. Benjamin Dahlia, great battle between those two at the very latter stages. He's another one whose day on the ASC limelight will be coming very, very shortly. He has been an absolute force to be reckoned with. Well, not quite. He's been an up-and-coming force lately. Took a podium last time out at Townsville, so hopefully we'll see him step on the rostrum once again. Brody Steen, Dane Liccardo, Corey McFarlane, Hans Brunswick, Brendan Ross was your top 10. A few big winners in that. Of course, Zach Baker up 17 positions. Lewis Wedding up 8 positions into, I think that was 13th place in the end. And a few big losers as well. We made mention Corey McFarlane started from the front row, dropped down to 8th. Hans Brunswick dropped 3 places with his problems late on in the race. And Will Newell and Alex Cattle brewing DNFs from good positions in the early stages, Stairs.
So that's all under our belts now. But what's not under our belts, which is sort of currently accruing on the outside of our belts, slightly above it, is what's yet to happen. And that is qualifying for race 2 and race 2 itself, which is a shorter race, 18 laps, still with a compulsory pit stop. But the interesting thing about this qualifying session is that there's no shootout, and it is still only 5 minutes. So that sort of hectic 5 minutes of action that we saw prior to the shootout, we're going to get that again, but that is to decide the grid.
And we saw an absolute madhouse of cars trying to exit the pits at the end of the first qualifying session. The reason for that is, of course, that if you don't get out of the pits and get onto a lap straight away, you are effectively doing a shootout lap. You only get one shot at it if you're not quick about it. And we saw that catch a few people out. We saw it catch out Lewis Wedding, who didn't set a lap. Zach Baker dropped out of the session, so he didn't set a lap. David Nenadic, he had one shot, one opportunity, and he messed it up to get into the shootout. So he started from 12th. There was a few guys who only just barely got in. We saw Dane Liccardo just sneak his way in. Lachlan Burke just missed out. So you really only get one proper shot at it if you're not paying attention. So you're effectively doing a shootout. It's effectively a 21 car shootout for this second qualifying session.
Just a reminder of the racetrack. This is Sydney Motorsport Park, formerly known as Eastern Creek, and I think in the hearts of many of us, that's how we still think of this racetrack. The race qualifying record, 26.615, set by Dane Warren. We're yet to come anywhere near that, if my memory serves me correct, and I don't think that's going to happen tonight with the way that we keep resetting the track evolution. But plenty of opportunities for side-by-side, plenty of opportunities for overtaking, and we've seen that in abundance tonight.
Certainly battles all the way through the field from the very top to the very bottom, and it's certainly good to get this sort of side-by-side, close quarters, very tight, very respectful, and sometimes not respectful battling back once again. It's good to be back, Stairs.
It's just, yes, that you said the words better than I possibly could have. We've been missing it terribly, and the racing action that we've seen tonight, battles up and down the field, and that's very much something that we would like to see continue. That is the reason, that is the thing that reminded us what we were missing.
It's good to be back.
5-minute qualifying session as the server just loads itself, and the cars and the drivers themselves being loaded into the server. I was very, very pleased with the way the server handled itself as well after that blip that we had just towards the end of qualifying. That seems to have resolved itself thanks to the reset that Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg did. And we had a perfectly performing server throughout that first race, so touch wood that continues into the second race. There's a silence over the racetrack that we can hear, and that is broken now by engines revving as cars make their way into the pit lane at a 45-degree angle. We saw in the start of qualifying for the first race, they just don't quite have the lock. Some of them, they don't turn straight away, they end up hitting the lane, and this is actually not one of the narrower pit lanes. There's actually quite a bit of space. And it looks like they've all learned their lesson there from the first qualifying session.
And you're already straight into it. 15 seconds down already, Stairs.
Well, they have to get it out straight away if they want to get a lap in time. And look at two wide action there from the ZB car and one of the other cars, which I didn't quite identify in time before it went out of shot.
And Kurt Stenberg only just making it into the session as well. He's only just loaded in time, so very fine margins there. A further update on Sean Allen. It's just a full no-go for him tonight.
It's a shame.
Yeah, so that's further swings the pendulum towards the ZB racing team.
Need those points.
Indeed. And once again, in qualifying, it is Dane Liccardo that is the first one out on track.
Yeah, so he must be something to do with the positioning of his car.
It must be right at the very end of pit lane, or he might just be the one on the button to make that move to the end of pit lane. So it'll be Will Newell behind him, and it looks like one of the 999 machines, or Ultimate 9 Racing rather, not 999. Got my wires crossed there. And we'll see Dane Liccardo come across to start once again the qualifying lap. First one out.
Thought I saw someone spun just momentarily on the server. Looks like we're just having a little bit of what we saw in the approach to the server lagging earlier, where the server just sort of stops momentarily. So hopefully, if that does happen again, we can just reset the server and stop that occurring in the race, which is what we don't want to see at all.
Liccardo's been very smooth through this first sector. It's a 28.2, so not the outright fastest we've seen. We sort of want first sector time in the 27s to be ultra competitive. He swings through turns 4 and 5, back up over the hill and the rise into turn 6. It's actually Will Newell who had the fastest.
Then Corey usurped him with a 27.7. And Colin Warwick's been through there, so he's actually a bit slower, 3 or 4 tenths slower than Corey McFarlane. So Corey McFarlane returning to the sort of very fast pace that we saw him do.
We just had someone off track in our other screen. It looked like the Lachlan Burke 444 machine as Dane Liccardo comes through a 4.7. So we saw in the shootout that second sector time be in the 3s, or 3.5s, 3.6s. So he's not quite going to be up at the very pointy end of things. Colin Warren quickest to the second sector, and we'll get him on screen in a moment. We'll just watch Liccardo come across the line to set the first lap in anger, and it's a 29.7. He's immediately usurped by Will Newell. Colin Warwick comes across the line and he sets a 28.6. And Corey comes across and sets a 28.4.
That's interesting because Colin Warwick was 3 or 4 tenths slower in the first sector, so he's clawed a lot of time back in the second and third sector there. Zach Baker's going to come across the line. Where does he end up? He is 4th, so he's already gone a lot higher than where he started the first race from. So he's potentially not got his lap in the first qualifying session in at all, which stands to reason. But he has been struggling a little bit with the competitiveness of the other guys. Vandalia goes into 3rd place, but I think Zach Baker has stepped it up a little bit today.
He's looking to try and keep that 2nd place in the championship squared away. Colin Warwick, fastest in the 1st sector. He's really put in a purple 1st sector, so he's found something that he was missing in that first lap, as he has one of the Ultimate 9 cars, the 996 of Brendan Ross, have a bit of a moment at the hairpin in front of him. Hopefully that doesn't affect him, and Rossi does smart job and gets out of the way. Rossi at the moment sits in... he hasn't set a lap, I don't think. Oh, he's in 8th, so he's sacrificing that for Warwick. Hopefully he gets another run at it.
Oh, Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella are in the pits. And they haven't set times.
So they're going to be going from the back of the field. Watch for them to tear through.
Have they made a pact with each other?
Possibly.
That's interesting. Colin Warwick, as he comes across the line, the server lags. Did he go into the top position? He certainly did. He was up by half a second on his own time, but he's usurped by Corey McFarlane almost immediately.
And it was in the final sector as well. McFarlane 2/10 quicker to snatch that lap back. They've got another chance to have a go at it. Corey decides to bail out. Warwick can still go.
Yeah, Corey's parked by the side of the road, so he's going to go back to the pits. That's it for his qualifying session. Colin Warwick might have one opportunity.
He's 0.02 of a second away.
That's gettable. That is gettable. 0.02, that's nothing. So, and dropped out of the server has... we have to remember what that time was. It was about 0.2 faster than what Colin Warwick's time was. That's Corey McFarlane, who's currently not in the service. So that was about a 28.05.
Yeah.
That was the time. So presuming that time stands... assuming he gets back into the server, we're still waiting to see whether... No, Colin Warwick's not going to come anywhere near it.
No.
He's 3.5 tenths off, so he's seen the best of that tyre. What else can we see?
Termo's jumped up into 7th place, or 8th place. That's a great lap. Zach Baker, I think, has given it away. He's finished up. Benjamin Dahlia, Will Newell, Brody Steen, they're all finished. Dane Liccardo, he's on a lap.
The server is having problems again. I think that might be time for another reset. Brunswick is potentially on a good lap as well.
We've got confirmation, both Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg saying in the admin chat that they're suffering server issues.
Well, that says the game's having issues. Are they talking about the server or specifically their game?
I'm not sure. It could be an indication of what we're seeing as well. Brunswick jumps up into 4th place. So, that's effectively 5th. Remember, we got Corey's back in the server, so there's actually 4th place.
Yes, all relative there. So Corey was actually inside the 28s there. So
27s. Underneath the 28s. In the 20s.
Inside the 28s.
Yeah, fair enough. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. Well, you know. I say yes when you correct me, but sometimes if I feel like if I stand by what I say, then, you know.
It's okay.
Sometimes it's not a mistake.
Anywho. I'll stand by it. I'll stand by you.
When I'm not strong. Which is when I'm juggling buttons. So, a messy qualifying session, but we think it's Corey McFarlane on pole from Colin Warwick. And it wasn't 2/10, it was actually more. It was more like, close to 3/10, which is why he was underneath, inside the 27s, if you like to say that. He was underneath the 28s. So that was a very, very strong lap from Corey. Let's see what his race pace is like, and let's see what happens with the server, whether we need a reset. What we might do is take a quick break, so we will come back with all the action for race 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome backstage for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000 stream, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. This is just to give you a little look at our setup for the race today. So we've got our big main camera here, which is shooting our desk there. So that's when we're to camera, doing our little wrap-ups and stuff. That's where we're going to be. We've got these lovely green things, just sort of fake foliage to give us a bit of sound muffling, and also some very classy flamingo designs. We've got James behind the camera, currently filming me as I'm speaking. Over here, we've got Stairs currently doing something very important before the stream begins. And indeed, he's got some gaffer tape, so we won't interrupt him. But if you just come over here, you can see the enormous setup that we have. We've got 4 monitors, one of which is a TV, on which you can see Maddie Dunlop and Josh Bagsy. Bagsy's currently completing a Rubik's Cube, so you can see we're intelligent and talented here at Apex Rear Wing. So we've got 3 keyboards. We have got 3 mice. We have got a switcher. We have got 4 monitors. We're going to have 3 computers running. If you just come down here really quick, you can see we've got 1 computer over here. And then we've got another one here. And then we've got a 3rd one over here. So lots and lots of technology back here. The 21st century, isn't it? So, and then through this door over here, if you just have we probably don't need to go in there, but if you just pop over here, James, and just have a sneaky peek through there, you'll be able to see that is our Card FX bunker, where we've got Michael Zalavari doing some very important work on the whiteboard. So that's just a quick little brief look at the backstage here for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000, and hope you've enjoyed.
Yeah, it's just a reminder there of the setup we had for last year's Bathurst 1000, hoping for something even better this year. Once we get into our new studio, looking forward to bringing you all the action for this year's ASC Bathurst 1000.
It's an iterative process, isn't it, Stairs?
Yeah,
Everything.
You learn what works, what doesn't, and you just try and improve. Iterative is a good word for it.
I'm excited to have a whiteboard again. I'm excited to have whiteboard. I'm excited to have strategy. Even in my little notebook that I brought here, just in case I was running the stream, I have notes from some past races and some pit stops.
Oh, what did they say?
And some strategy options and all these different sort of things.
This is a thing to say, though. This notebook actually.
It's getting right to the very end. So that
you'll have to have another one.
So that's what we've got. That was the pit sequences and driver times of the ASR Enduro Cup rounds, and that was the strategy options for the Bathurst 500 that they do over at ASR. It was quite an impressive race there as well. And then I think these ones are some different things. I was playing a puzzle game.
We need a camera in the studio so that people can see what you're looking at.
These were some notes for a puzzle game that I was playing. So
this is
a different relevant. This is
we've got various letters of the alphabet.
Again, notes for the puzzle game. This has been my effective notebook. It's been very rare. I'm on the last page of a notebook, Stairs.
Wow.
Yeah. Normally I lose them or they get trashed before they get.
So many half completed notebooks.
So it's a good mix.
Back. It's funny. I found a notebook from 2015 or so where I had decided for a couple of days to actually write down some thoughts that I'd had and things that happened. And stuff that I probably wouldn't have remembered if I hadn't written them down. I wrote down one day, went for a walk, and picked up a phone that I found on the ground. Someone pulled up and said, "Have you seen a phone?" And I said, "Is it this one?" And they said, "Oh my god, thank you." And then they gave me all the change from the center console.
Oh wow.
And they probably would have found it anyway, but the fact that I don't think they stopped because I was holding a phone. They couldn't see that. Then they might have just thought it was my phone. But they said, "Have you seen a phone?" I was like, "Is this the one?" And it was. So there was something about that I thought I should write down. But we'll change the subject because we've got another race to commentate on.
Yes, once again, Sydney Motorsport Park, fast-flowing first sector. That double apex left-hander rather has seen a lot of action, especially into turn 3 as well, plunging down the hill into turns 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. Plenty of side-by-side we've seen. The race lap record probably not under threat tonight. Dane Warren, no longer the previous pole sitter. That honour has gone to Colin Warwick this time around. The previous winner, Kurt Stenberg, tonight. Dane Warren cleaned house last time out. And we're just getting away from the grid, and it is Corey McFarlane who took pole position.
Behind him, we had Colin Warwick in second place. So rounding out the front row in a qualifying session where we saw some of the front runners not able to take part because of various gremlins. So we'll wait to see how they come back through. But this is very much an open goal for Colin Warwick and Corey McFarlane if he can keep his nose clean. Benjamin Dahlia starts behind them in third place. And he finished 5th in the first race, so he'll be looking to improve on that and get a podium finish, which would be just his second this year. Hans Brunswick in 4th place. Great qualifying again from him to start on the second row of the grid. Fell down with a poor pit strategy. Will Newell up into 5th place, looked racy at the beginning of the first race, but wasn't able to turn it into a result. Brody Steen starts behind him in 6th place. He's got Zach Baker right behind him. These Race on Oz and ZB guys, Michael joined at the hip. Dane Liccardo behind him will start out of 8th place ahead of Termo. Rounding out the top 10 is Lachlan Burke in the All-Australian races there, the 444 Tamiya car. Then we've got Alex Cattle in 11th place in the red Race on Oz car from Brendan Ross. The next of the Ultimate 9 racing cars, the 996. Ben Hall behind him. For Luke McHugh Racing, we've got Nathan Higginson actually a little bit further up in the second race qualifying, so let's see if he can hold it together for race 2, slightly shorter race to take care of his tyres. RSM Latino out of 15th place for Warwick Racing Team. Then we've got Cameron Parrott down there in 16th, ahead of Steve Warwick. Brody in 18th place, and then behind Brody we've got Kai Jones joining. So he jumped into the Discord and asked if there was time to join, and evidently there was, so good job to see Kai Jones there. Luke Rosella not able to set a time in qualifying, so he will start out at 20th, but he's got Kurt Stenberg alongside him. That'll be very, very interesting, I must say, and Lewis Wedding as well, unable to qualify, and David Nedovich. So 5 minutes, a few game issues, and we didn't have a full grid of qualifiers.
It's going to be incredible to watch the likes of Rosello, Wedding, Stenberg carve their way through the pack. We'll keep eyes on that during the race. But 23 cars, Des. Everyone's jumping in for this second race this evening. 18 laps, compulsory pit stop. It's everything to play for.
Everyone lined up. We did see Will Newell had to reverse a little bit to get back into his grid spot, but now everyone is waiting for the lights. The revs rise. The clutches drop, and off they go. A good start from all. A little bit of smoke, but right out in front, it looks like it's going to be Colin Warwick getting the whole shot by quite some margin there, because Corey McFarlane, again, didn't have the best start. Side by side goes Benjamin Daly with Brody Steen, who's had a tremendous start, up into 3rd place.
Much better start this time around from Colin Warwick. Corey McFarlane, again, didn't go anywhere. And they all managed to file their way through turns 1 and 2, mostly without too much issue. Looks like Will Newell is going to try and make a move on Benjamin Dahlia in this early stage of the race. Gets it done very nicely, kind of boxes Dahlia out there. He's going to be vulnerable to the double 099 car at Hans Brunswick. Both of them lost positions to Newell and to Steen. Steen's done a cracking job to jump up those few positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Just fantastic stuff. Love to see it. Colin Warwick with about a 4-car length advantage at the front of this race ahead of Corey. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for Colin Warwick. And wonder what his heart rate is like right now. We're a little bit wide there, a little bit of a wiggle there from Will Newell, but they all seem to be getting through.
And check out where Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella are. After starting almost on the back row, they're already up 10 spots. Kurt Stenberg into 13th.
That's worth a look.
Oh, in fact, Corey McFarlane's getting the hurry up from Brody Steen through the final corner as they come onto the main straight. He's right in the wheel tracks down this long straight. Barely anything in it.
So Brody Steen looking racy early on here. This is exactly what he needed in his battle with the ZB guys. And getting points. Basically trying to stop the hemorrhaging of points to ZB. That's what they want. Kurt Stenberg is making his move on Nathan Higginson, who
Rosella's
lets him through.
So deep in there. Don't know how he managed to get that caught up. That's Rosella in the Mustang just behind Higginson.
Yep. So both of these guys, how they process this traffic is going to be very, very interesting. How far up they can get. Whether or not a win is still on the cards for them, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't throw out the concept, but podium is definitely on the cards. Look at this, Kurt Stenberg's going to round out nearly 2 cars in one go. He's up to Brendan Ross now, who has his teammate Hans Brunswick. Looks like he's lost a few spots off the start up ahead.
And particularly to Termo. Termo's done a great job to hold his position. Stenberg dives down the inside again. Higginson dives down the inside on Alex Cattle as well and makes it stick. So they've done very nicely there.
Rosella's got quite a few cars between himself and Kurt Stenberg now. So Kurt Stenberg able to get quite a few cars in one go. He was 1 car behind Luke Rosella. Now he's 4 or 5 cars behind. That's how quickly Kurt Stenberg has gone past all of those guys.
Big wiggle from Termo coming onto the main straight. That's checked him up a bit, but Stenberg, big dive into the pits.
Brendan Ross goes into the pits. I don't think that was expected at all. And Luke Rosella might have been, if he was slightly further ahead, might have had his nose chopped off there. He was at the time trying to make his move on Alex Cattle as Kurt Stenberg's trying to overtake 2 cars in one corner, and he may well just do that as Hans Brunswick is unable to hold the inside line. Kurt Stenberg gets straight across to the other side to get the inside line for the next corner. That was very, very well done for Kurt Stenberg, who now finds himself in 8th place. Luke Rosella did actually work well to get up into 11th there. We've got quite a few of those guys down that main straight. And while back at the front, it is still Colin Warwick leading away from Corey McFarlane and Brody Steen holding down 3rd place ahead of Willie Newton.
Corey looks to have settled a bit here now after his not the best of starts. He's got Steen just tucked up behind him, but he's actually gained 2 or 3 car lengths now, so that's settled that battle down. This is great though for Colin Warwick if he's got still got championship aspirations, because he's well, the gap between himself and Kurt Stenberg certainly is quite large, but with Stenberg off the back of the grid, this is basically allowing Warwick all the time and opportunity he needs to get a good run at possibly a race victory. I'm a little disappointed that Benjamin Dahlia hasn't gone with these guys. He's off at the back of this group by 4 seconds.
Yeah, a bit on his own, isn't he?
Yeah, not quite able to match the pace at the front in this early stage of the race.
Only a second ahead of Dane Liccardo, who has Zach Baker for company. Where's Kurt Stenberg still running in 8th place?
Just behind Zach Baker.
Actually about to catch up to Zach Baker. So these 2 different sides of the race that we are looking are converging on one another.
Liccardo very hairy out on the exit of turn 2 there. That's going to give the opportunity for Baker to maybe have a run into turn 4 as they dive down the hill. To be very, very close here. And that is Stenberg just lurking in the background, ready to pounce if these guys get tangled up.
Rosella's just behind Hans Brunswick as well, so he's just 1 car behind. You'll see him just pop into the back of that shot there as Kurt Stenberg awkwardly tries to go around the outside, but Zach Baker was equal to the task, and they both drop a little bit of time to Dane Liccardo there. Kurt Stenberg just sort of trying to pick his line here. Dangerous times.
Dangerous times on the exit of turn 8 there.
Back at the front, it looks like Colin Warwick might have made a little bit of a mistake. Either that or Corey has picked up his pace a little bit, because as we cut back, they were just converging on the same piece of tarmac.
It was a middle sector. Corey McFarlane much quicker, and he's set the fastest lap of the race this time around, a 28.4, as we're now back onto Zach Baker and Kurt Stenberg. Through turn 1, Stenberg throws it up the inside. Baker tries to hold on around the outside, manages to get over the concrete and keep that car together, manages to hold on a little bit further as well, but goes very, very deep at turn 2.
Kurt Stenberg had to choose his braking point in order to not crash into Dane Liccardo, and he's at least been following, not immediately behind, but in close proximity of Dane Liccardo for the last lap or so, so he could potentially know where the braking point was into turn 2, so it wasn't as risky as you might have thought, but he's now right back of Dane, and if he can clear him, he'll be up into the top 6 with Benjamin Dahlia about a second and a half up the road.
Bit of Morse code on the rear bumper there as we swap back to the battle at the front. McFarlane rather is looking very, very racy on the rear of the battle for the lead, and here's now that battle for 6th place that we're looking at, Stenberg versus Liccardo. Stenberg trying to go around the outside and get it to work. If he can hang around here through turn 9, he might be able to make the dive at turn 10. Not quite enough room on the outside there.
Oh, and all wide goes Dane Liccardo, and he did very well to hold on to that. That could have been disastrous for both of them, and somehow pushes his way back in front of Kurt Stenberg. That was very, very lucky, and they're banging doors all the way down the straight, and Dane Liccardo seems to be getting the better run down that straight. Kurt Stenberg is going to be very, very frustrated. Looks like he almost chucked it down the inside there. This is getting pretty heated as they go down into turn 2. Kurt Stenberg's lost just a little bit of time. He's going to try and drive around the outside. No, he's going to do the bump and run, but he's not actually managing to unseat Liccardo from that position. So this is going to be tremendously frustrating now for Kurt Stenberg. As you can see in the picture-in-picture, the battle for the lead.
Oh, there's a spin at the front. There's a spin. We've seen Will Newell on the exit of turn 3 facing backwards in the middle of the road, and that's sprayed Baker off the road as well in avoidance.
That's hugely frustrating for Zach Baker, who was having a good run. So he goes down to 9th place, and Will Newell down to 14th. We don't have time for a replay because, as you can see, this is still side by side. Dane Liccardo is not willing to yield this position, and Kurt Stenberg is not able to make the move stick. But this is what happens when you defend so hard. Eventually, they just get the shits with them. They just get they get stroppy with you, let's say, and move you.
Well, the horse is already out of the stable stairs. You can't take that back.
I think Kurt Stenberg has made that move now, so he will now try and set off the road to Benjamin Dahlia. And as I said a lap ago, that was about 1.5 seconds. It's now 3.5 seconds. So that's how much time Kurt Stenberg has lost trying to process there. Luke Rosella now trying to make a move on Dane Liccardo. How much difficulty will he have as he swings in and swings out? Will he be as patient or impatient as Kurt Stenberg? We will wait and see.
Big drift from Dane Liccardo, and that's
a reactionary move. Dane Liccardo
has gone straight across the grass there.
There's absolutely nothing I can say in defence of Dane Liccardo there, because he moved after the committed move already from Luke Rosella.
He moved in the braking zone.
You can't do that. You are going to cause an accident, and we'll just have to go back a little bit further on this replay. We might even see this from Luke Rosella's point of view, but you can see that is reacting to what Luke Rosella did and caused a crash, and he deserved that. So he's got no one to blame but himself for that.
What's the expression? Driving in the mirrors?
Yeah, and I mean, driving in the mirrors, I understand. Oh, hang on, this is going to be what we can find Luke Rosella. Here we go. This is what Luke Rosella saw. He moves to the inside, and immediately
Liccardo swings.
There's nothing Luke Rosella can do there because he's already committed to the inside, and suddenly he's got him in front of him. So yeah, that's sloppy driving from Dane Liccardo, and I don't think it was necessary. Why did he let the red mist descend like that?
Because he's got the two protagonists of this championship hunt right behind him.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you have to piss them both off.
This is true. This is true. In fact, we see on our other screen, Luke Rosella jumps into the pit lane as this battle for the lead.
So does Kurt Stenberg.
There we go. So it's interesting to me now that they've decided to do this here after having to go through all that trauma and trying to get past Dane Liccardo. Why not jump out of that pack beforehand and do the undercut? It surprises me now that they've got track position and got clear space that they're doing that. But we focus now on this battle for the lead because Corey McFarlane is putting the blowtorch onto the rear of Colin Warwick's Commodore through turns 4 and 5. He's had a few nibbles, a few goes at it, and hasn't quite been able to put the move together yet. This is cracking stuff right at the head of the field.
And Brody Steen is sticking with them. Here we go. McFarlane goes down the inside, and Colin Warwick lights up the rears on the exit, so that hurts any chance he had of a right of reply immediately. Brody Steen has got his nose up in behind there as well. So this is very, very tight for the top three. This is very, very interesting indeed. Benjamin Dahlia, will he be able to catch up? Bit of a wide moment there for McFarlane, but it's not enough to lose ground to Colin Warwick. I'm very interested by these three cars and their relative pace at the moment. It seems different to the form book would suggest.
How so, Stairs? How does it suggest difference?
Well, you know, Brody Steen, he's fast, and actually Colin Warwick's into the pits, so I might have to hold that thought. Luke Rosella came out of the pits just behind Kurt Stenberg, so those two are attached at the hip.
Once again, still.
So Yeah, I mean, I just thought Colin Warwick would start to build a bit of a gap on these guys, and you know, I don't have a lot of prior knowledge about Corey McFarlane, so we don't really know. We're only basing it on what happened in the first race. But Benjamin Daly has generally been ever so slightly slower.
And Brody Steen as well.
I meant Brody Steen actually instead of Benjamin Daly. Benjamin Daly has been slower. That is going by the form book. Not that much slower, only to the tune of 2 seconds or so, but it's interesting to see how this is going to shake out. Early pit stop for Colin Warwick, how will that play out? Earlier pit stop, I should say.
Cool. So catch our breath for a moment, just in time to catch where everyone is on circuit, as we've got a drive-through penalty for RSM Latino. He's just come through the pit, so that would suggest to me a pit lane speed infringement, unfortunately, for RSM Latino.
So this is now interesting, what the pace between Corey McFarlane and Brody Steen is now that we have taken out of the mix Colin Warwick. And it appears as though Corey had a little bit of pace on that lap. He was building a bit of a gap as he now peels into the pits, and Brody Steen stays out. Benjamin Dahlia also comes in, so we turn our attention to where Colin Warwick is on track as well to see exactly where that is. Here he is on the picture-in-picture, just coming through the final sector.
And in the middle sector, last lap around, it's a 36.5 for Brody. For Corey, 36.3 versus a 36.3. But on the other hand, Kurt Stenberg, a 35.7. So those new tyres are paying dividends, and this is going to be very, very tight as Corey comes out of the lane, and Colin Warwick is going to swoop around the outside and take the effective race lead, only very just.
So the undercut has worked in this case, so very, very good job there for Colin Warwick as Kurt Stenberg sets the fastest lap of the race. So he's pulled away a little bit from Luke Rosella into 10th. We'll see where that ends up being when all of these pit stops cycle through. But that's good news for Colin Warwick because he was under a lot of pressure. Now we'll see what happens if he starts to come under pressure again towards the end of this stint, because his tyres, albeit only one lap, by the tune of one lap, they are still older than those of Corey McFarlane, and we saw that there was a definite discrepancy in the pace of those two towards the end of the first stint.
Yes, indeed. And we also saw a definite difference in the longevity of those tyres in the first race. Remember, David Nenadic and Hans Brunswick taking the early pit stops really struggled at the end of the race. Certainly not nearly as long this race, as Colin Warwick makes full use of the facilities, the final complex of corners. But certainly compared to those who pitted a bit later, they had a lot more to fight with in the latter stages of the race. This being a sprint format race, a shorter race, we'll see guys take a lot more out of their tyres probably in the chase of lap time, as we've got now the aforementioned David Nenadic and Dan Ricardo
has come in after ruining a bunch of people's races. Brody Steen has just come out of the pits and he's in 5th place.
So that's a net loss for Brody Steen, because he was actually he's coming out basically exactly where he was. He's just lost about 2 or 3 seconds.
He's only just ahead of Benjamin Dahlia. So he'll keep that position, but I think he's lost ground there.
Yeah, about the tune of 2 or 3 seconds to Corey McFarlane and Colin Warwick, who are about to resume their battle for the effective race lead. Only 2 cars.
It's not a lot, because the gap between him and Corey, was about that 1 second or so when Corey came in. So it's gone up by about 2 seconds, 2.5.
2 cars yet to pit. They are the Ultimate 9 Racing Team Mustangs of Hans Brunswick and Lewis Wedding. As that was a bit of a moment for Corey Steen on the race on Oz Mustang. Brody Steen. I'm taking on your habits.
So the Ultimate 9 cars running 1st and 2nd at the moment as a result of not pitting. So that's a good little accolade that they can hang around their necks.
And I think perhaps Lewis Wedding is just coming to the pits. There we are.
Oh, that's a great camera angle. Like seeing them from that angle as they zoom into the pits. It's not as exciting when they stop. But when they're on the move, it's, I don't know, there's something about that I like. Brody Steen is coming under pressure now from Benjamin Daly. It looks like he might even go down the inside. Oh, a bit of a lock-up. Wasn't close enough to make the move. These two stablemates race on Oz with Alex Cattle in the satellite in the satellite race on Oz team.
Another little bit of a story that's happening further down the field is Luke Rosella has popped out of pits behind Zach Baker. In fact, he's lost 5 seconds to the back of Kurt Stenberg.
No, he's lost time.
We said that they were
He was
conjoined.
nuts to butts with Kurt Stenberg when they came out of the pits, so he's made a mistake or something somewhere and ended up behind Zach Baker as a result, by the looks of it.
Yeah, last lap around for Luke Rosella, 29.5. So that's not even that slow a lap. I'm not sure then. Stenberg must just be putting everyone else to the sword.
Did it happen on the previous lap, maybe?
Oh, let's do some investigating then. Seeing as you piqued my interest.
Meanwhile, if we go back to this battle between Brody Steen and Alex Cattle, which looks...
Benjamin Daly.
Alex Cattle.
He's the other race on cars.
Yeah, I'm colourblind. Let's go with that. It looks like he's going to make that move, and this is going to potentially be for that final spot on the podium. Hans Brunswick has now pitted, and so they cycle through into 3rd and 4th place. And it'll be interesting to see where Hans Brunswick comes out, but we are definitely looking at this battle right now. It looks like just doesn't seem to have the pace, and he doesn't want to take out Brody Steen, given their teammates. You don't want to take out anyone, of course, but much less
Sometimes you want to take someone out.
well, we try not to condone that sort of behaviour.
Absolutely.
Luke Rosella has no answer for Zach Baker at the moment. Dropping back.
Yeah, very peculiar. In fact, Hans Brunswick has just dropped in behind Luke Rosella as well. So that's a bit of a peculiar loss of pace for Rosella. We were expecting him to really fire up the order, but we're watching this battle on screen still. Brody Steen and Benjamin Dalia. He's hunting for a podium here. Certainly hunting for a podium. He's got the pace to do it, and we've got only 5 laps left as well. So this race has gone quite quickly, hasn't it, Stairs?
Yeah, especially when we start the night with a longer race. The shorter race just sort of flips by in an instant, even though it is a pit stop race. It's not exactly a sprint, but I mean, in relative terms it is. There is still an element of strategy and tyre conservation going on at the moment. It's looking good for Colin Warwick. He has a 7/10 of a second advantage over Corey McFarlane, but Corey McFarlane may potentially catch up in the latter part of the race.
We've lost Nathan Higginson from proceedings once again. He's DNF'd, unfortunately for Higo, on lap 10.
That's pretty good to get this far, sort of halfway through, and only have one DNF out of a 23 car field.
23 is an impressive number for the number of cars on the grid, certainly.
Hope that we can retain that for the remaining races of this championship. 2 more main series events in Sydney, and then we've got the Bathurst 1000. This has started to close up. Corey is now within 0.2 of a second. He set the fastest first sector on this lap.
Oh, goes for the dive.
He's going, as soon as he gets there, he has gone for the move, and that has surprised Colin Warwick. It surprised me. But Colin Warwick hangs on.
And just managed to close the door there. There was a little bit of an overlap, but not quite enough to command that corner apex. So Warwick lives to fight another day. Perhaps if this had been the real deal, they would have broken steering arms as they made wheel-to-wheel contact, but they got lucky to escape, and they'll go on. It will be now 4 laps remaining for this pair as they come across the line to start lap 15 rather.
Now the other thing, just before we cut back, we're going to come back to this battle, but as this battle goes on for Brody Steen and Benjamin Dalia, Kurt Stenberg is only 3 seconds adrift of them, so if they get heated, then Kurt Stenberg might come in with a podium if that opportunity presents itself.
And that would be an absolute robbery for the Race on Oz guys. Corey looks to the inside at turn 4, not quite deep enough under brakes to force his way through there. There's going to be an overlap through turn 5. If you can hang it around the outside, he looks for the over-under. He gets the over-under. He's got the high ground on the inside of the corner as they head towards turn 6. He's got the inside line here, and Corey McFarlane will take the lead of the second race in tonight's Sydney Super Sprint. And did it very nicely, set it up very well.
Colin tried for the over and under, but he just didn't quite get the nose tucked in and just touched the back of Corey McFarlane's car, and so that stopped the momentum that Colin Warwick had, and now he's losing quite a few car lengths, so that pace seems to be going away. Meanwhile, Brody Steen is still just ever so slightly hanging on to third place by his fingernails, with Benjamin Dahlia trying to wrestle it from him before Kurt Stenberg catches up. Kurt Stenberg, having said that, isn't taking huge chunks of time, only sort of a couple of tenths of a second, which isn't enough to catch and pass by the end of this race. Here we go. Is he going to have a look down the inside at turn 1?
Oh, yes, he is. You know, they go side by side through turn 1, pitch it in and hold on for dear life. Steen just runs a wheel off the exit curb there and manages to hold on to position. Great respect from these guys. Remember, Steen hasn't had a podium this year yet, so this is going to be a first for him if he can hold on. Benjamin Dahlia did get a podium last time out at Townsville, and actually leads Brody Steen in the championship standing. So this is on for young and old here between the two Race on Oz machines.
Oh, I'm just looking on the other screen. Colin Warwick got a bit of a swapper on. He's staying in touch. I reckon if he's still within a shout on the last lap, he'll give it everything to try and get back that first position. It will be his third win of the year.
And by the way, there's plenty of other battles that we're not seeing just because we're so focused on this stuff at the front. Alex Cattle and Hans Brunswick are engaged in a battle for 8th. Lockie Burke. And in fact, that position's just changed. So it looks like they're side by side based on the timing screen. In fact, maybe Alex Cattle has just made a mistake because he's now just dropped 2 or 3 seconds. We'll chase that one up. Will Newell, David Nenadich, Dane Liccardo, Lewis Wedding, Brendan Ross, they're in a 5-way battle for the tail end of the top 10 as well. So it's all happening here, but we've just got this focus on the Race on Oz machines because it is nuts to butts, as Madbird would say, down the main straight. It's going to be second verse, same as the first, to use a stairsism as they come down towards turn 1. Dahlia decides not to dive this time around, as we've got, this is the penultimate lap here, so it's going to be very, very soon. Is he going to make a dive there? No, I think we've got a quick replay for Alex Cattle and Lewis Wedding, Hans Brunswick rather.
Yeah, so this is what happened here. They were battling side by side. Alex Cattle looks like he locked the rears or something, or it's a weird little off there. And as this was happening, this was when Michael was saying that the gap had just gone out by 3 seconds. So that was what happened to Alex Cattle. A bit unfortunate, and he is now in 9th. It looks like Colin Warwick is done because he is now 2.8 seconds adrift.
And we've still got eyes on this battle for 3rd and 4th, the tail end of the podium. And this is for the tail end of the top 10. This is what I was making reference to earlier. Liccardo versus Newell versus Brunswick. Oh, he's over!
Oh,
he's over!
my goodness!
He's on his roof!
Wow, wow, wow.
Oh, we caught that at the perfect moment.
Let's have a look at the replay at that. So this was all sort of holding up. Looks like Dane was a bit of a cork in the bottle here, so he dropped back to 15th. And what caused the actual incident? Was there contact there? Was Will Newell on the inside? Just got him. Oh. And that was a rollover for the ages for Dane Liccardo. So
he's been involved in a few things, says Dane, this year.
Yeah, he's brought some of it on himself, I'd have to say.
Possibly not that one. That one I'll give him a pass for.
That's true.
In fact, we'll have a look at Colin Warwick. He's struggling at the moment. Yeah, now here goes Benjamin Dahlia down the inside of turn 2. Brody Steen can't close the door that quickly. There's the open gap there. Dahlia stays around the inside. They're side by side on the slide as they come through turn 2. And Steen manages to hold on just. It's sprint car stuff on the last lap here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Kurt Stenberg is just going to run out of time to catch these guys, I think. We've got about half a lap to go here on the very end of this very exciting Sydney 1 round. And
Warwick's gone. Warwick's dropped. Oh, was that Colin Warwick?
Yes, it was. His tyres are completely destroyed, and Kurt Stenberg is going to get past him. That's absolute heartbreak there for Colin Warwick.
And this is a Race on Oz double podium.
Back to 5th. It is a double podium, so this is now the battle for 2nd and 3rd place, not 3rd and 2nd place. Corey McFarlane is going to have a 6-second advantage. He can coast his way to the end of this race, and he becomes a race winner. And, well, that was definitely not expected as we went in. Another new race winner in the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Take your hat off, Corey McFarlane. What a tremendously managed race. Meanwhile, Brody Steen gets his first podium of the year, and in third place, Benjamin Dahlia gets his second podium of the year. Great job, Kurt Stenberg, with the recovery drive of the night, up into fourth place. Second only, well, Zach Baker's recovery drive in the first race is commendable, special mention as well. And Luke Rosella in sixth place in about 19 seconds adrift ahead of Alex Cattle, Lachlan Burke. Hans
What's
Brunk,
happened to
and
Colin Warwick? He hasn't made it across the line yet. He's still going.
Is it fuel? He must have short fueled.
Because Warwick, his last lap time was a 32.3. He's struggling. He's
It's got to be fuel.
He's
Short fueled.
and he's made it across the line in 10th. He lost out to Alex Cattle, Lockie Burke, Hans Brunswick, who in turn lost out to Alex Cattle. So Cattle actually recovered quite nicely there in the end. It was second place on the cards for Warwick and down into 10th at the very end.
Yeah, he had that in hand, but this isn't tyres. This is definitely a fuel thing for Colin Warwick, because we're just sort of trying to see if we can find the moment where he basically totally ran out.
Will Newell finished in 11th place, just ahead of Lewis Wedding and David Nenadic in their close battle pack. It was Brendan Ross who brought up the tail of that group ahead of... Oh, and here's what happened to Colin Warwick.
So this is about halfway through the last lap for Colin Warwick, and he still has power here, but he's doing a severe amount of lift and coast. And there goes the two Race on Oz guides. Just a miscalculation, I think, from Colin Warwick. Unfortunate, because it's cost him a chance of winning this race.
It must have been a full lap. He must have miscalculated by a full lap in that case then, because he was nowhere over the past two laps.
So that's Kurt Stenberg, and at this point, does he have anything left? He's just trying to get, he needs enough for a few squirts out of each corner.
And the undulating nature of Sydney Motorsport Park as well would have not done him any favours. It's uphill here, and I don't think he has anything left. There goes Zach Baker. There's no sound. That
He
is
had enough, but he needed to get onto that main straight to get a bit of a burst there. Otherwise, he never would have made it.
There he goes. That's the last throws of fuel there for Colin Warwick. There goes, I think that was, well, that was Luke Rosella.
And then he just rolled it to the line. So, well, that was the story for Colin Warwick. And here's the story for Corey McFarlane, who is a relative newcomer to Automobilista Supercars. And he celebrates in style for having won that race. He didn't miscalculate. And he was putting Colin Warwick under quite a bit of pressure before the pit stops. And maybe that pressure was what caused the miscalculation. You never know.
Yeah, it's one of those very difficult things to get the fuel numbers right, the pit strategy right, the tyre strategy right, all while you're hot under the collar with the race on the line. It might have just been what caused that little miscalculation, that little indiscretion that saw Colin Warwick drop from 2nd to 10th in the last 2 laps of the race.
And that's all she wrote for tonight's racing action. A tremendous series of races. And I believe we've got some of our drivers lining up for an interview, Michael.
And we'll start with... Oh, who have we got here? We'll start with Kurt Stenberg, first race winner. Kurt, cracking first race from you. A great battle with good mate Luke Rosella in the first part of the race, and you drove away in the second part of the race, and a great recovery in race 2. You maintain your championship lead. What a night's worth of racing.
Here at the shorter circuit, but that was my first turn in anger there in qualifying on the track, and well, this year anyway. Well, for this race,
yep,
practicing. But yeah, I didn't expect to have the pace. I expected Luke and Corey to be a bit faster, but I got on the back of Luke there at the start after an epic start, and I just thought I'm just going to drive really hard and see what happens, and then I was like, I'm faster than him. So I passed him, and yeah, and then race 2, I didn't get to qualify because I was having some problems with my game, and yeah, I'm pretty happy to get back to P4. That was a good drive. I would have liked to got to the podium, but the guys in front, they deserved it.
Yeah, it was a cracking battle in race 2. Just that start though in race 1, you jumped from 4th to 2nd off the grid. what does it feel like when you make a start like that? Do you feel like that first lap is just I don't know, gives you the tingles?
Pretty good when you're me, because I'm normally pretty bad at starts. So, and then I got an absolute excellent start, and that set up the race really, because you're already past two guys, and I thought I could have even got Luke on the start. It was that good. So, yeah. And then that's sort of set the mood for the first few laps, I guess. Yeah, and just push on and see what you can do, and yeah, pretty comfortable win in the end.
Absolutely, it was. And you extend your championship lead. Another 3 rounds left to go. Are you feeling pretty comfortable in that championship?
I am, yeah. Look, I like this track, so I know that it's not the best that we're here over and over again, but I do like this track, and I like Bathurst too, and it'll be, hopefully there's a nice comfortable lead going into that race, because I still don't know who I'm driving that race with, so that's a bit of a thing I need to work out.
Well, hopefully you get that sorted out before the big day in December. Congratulations on your efforts tonight, Kurt Stenberg.
Nice, thanks guys.
And we've got both Race on Oz guys in that last battle here in the booth. We'll interview you both at the same time. Brody Steen and Benjamin Dahlia. What a battle in that second part of the race. First, we'll start with Brody Steen. Coming out of the pits with the green sister car behind you, were you aware just how quick Dahlia was going at that point in time?
Absolutely. I knew he was on warm tyres, so I just had to get the elbows out and defend a bit while I was warming the tyres up. Then just a cracking battle to the end of the race from there. That was just awesome fun. That's what racing's all about.
And it looked like you guys were both having plenty of fun. Benjamin, when you saw Steen pop out ahead of you, were you looking to make a move straight away, or were you trying to be a bit conservative, considering he is your teammate and you are in the sort of secondary race on Oz team? Was that things that you were thinking about?
I guess that does sort of play on the mind a little bit, but at the same time, I knew I was on warm tyres, he was on cold tyres, and I knew I had the pace for at least those first couple laps while he was getting his tyres up to temp, but yeah, he did a great job of defending. It's not the easiest track to pass around either, so yeah, but it was a mega fun battle that whole race. It was really good.
And both of you guys chasing a podium. Steen, you're first for the year. Benjamin, you're second, coming off the back of Townsville. When you were on the last lap and you saw the stricken Colin Warwick machine come to a halt around turn 6, what went through your head then? Because both of you would have had the realization that the podium's in the bag.
To be honest, I sort of gutted for Cole. Looks like he sort of running out of fuel there at the end. It's disappointing to pass a guy like that, but on the flip side, you always take a podium when you can get it.
How very chivalrous of you there, Ben.
Classy as always.
Yeah, same thing. Cole's driven well all night, yeah, as he usually does, and it's a shame to see that sort of thing happen, but at the same time, yeah, exact same as Brody said, it's always nice to take a podium whenever you can get it.
And you guys both deserved it tonight. Congratulations to the pair of you on your podium positions in race 2.
Thanks, guys.
And we have our race 2 race winner, Corey McFarlane. Congratulations on a stellar race 2. You were looking to business and qualifying in both races. It didn't quite go your way in race 1.
Yeah, race 1 was a bit of a mess. I started the tyre pressures way too low, and yeah, it's kind of cooked from there, and then hit my mate Will, and then readdressed it and went to the back, and then we came together again.
Not a
yeah, it was just good
retaliatory
fun.
move. We wondered if that was getting one back.
Nah.
Good to know.
Yeah, no, we were just having fun, and yeah, accidentally came together twice, but didn't really matter. And then yeah, the qualifying was good fun.
But race 2 though, you really put Colin Warwick to the sword in the first part of the race, and then when you popped out of the pits right behind him, it was a battle for the ages at the head of the field.
Yeah, off the race start, I knew I was going either back to second, third, or fourth. I'm not able to start this thing yet, but I noticed at the end of the first stint, his tyres were pretty hot in the rear. And then I just thought I could go that extra lap at the end to overcut him and hopefully have a bit of a gap when I came out, but nah, came out behind. But yeah, his rear tyres were cooked at the end again, so I was hoping we would have a bit of a longer battle, but it is what it is.
You sound quite bemused at a race victory. Come on, Corey, it's a race win.
Yeah, It's a win, but you know, I reckon Automobilista is the best racing game or sim out there for battling. You can bump and rub and you don't have a lot of issues with it. It's just good fun to race on.
Well, hopefully in a week's time when we're back for the next round, we'll have the likes of Kurt and Luke and everyone around to battle bump and grind for the whole race.
Yep, looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Congratulations on your efforts tonight and the win in race 2, Corey McFarlane.
Cheers.
So that is the podium getters in race 2.
In race 2, yes, but going back to race 1, if you remember that far back, Michael.
Oh, it's been a big night.
Well, we had Kurt Stenberg winning that race, who we've spoken to. Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick rounded out that podium. And well, who should we chat to first? Let's start with Luke Rosella.
Oh no, he's gone.
Oh, he was here, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he left.
Okay, well, let's chat to Cole then. Colin, a competitive night of racing for you with a podium in the first race, and well, we've sort of detailed what happened in the second race. Corey mentioned tyres, but we also saw that you looked like you might have run out of fuel towards the end of that race as well.
Yeah, it was just a silly miscalculation for me. Calculated for 17 laps, not 18. So, yeah, I was going to run a full tank, but then I was like, oh, I'll take a little bit out of it just to make it a little bit quicker in the first stint. But yeah, I knew I was in trouble with about 6 laps to go. And yeah, tried to save it, but yeah, can't save like 5 litres. So.
Yeah, commiserations on that, but you still, we got a chance to sort of see your masterful effort of actually managing to get it to the line so that you could get some points at least.
Yeah, no, that was very stressful. I came out of turn 2 with 1.7 litres, so to get it to the line from there was I'm pretty chuffed about that.
Wow, that's actually quite an achievement. I'm impressed, Colin.
Yeah, thanks. I said to Stenny, no, I'm not going to make it, but yeah, I made it. Just.
But it's not all doom and gloom because of the podium in the first race. Tell us about that.
No, that's right. That was good fun, that race. It was a shame about Corey and Will. Yeah, I was enjoying the little battle there. I was giggling to myself with Stenny, saying this is fun, and he was doing the same thing at the front, and you know, reminds us why we do this series and why we race it when we do. And yeah, no, it was really good fun.
And that's exactly what we want to hear as broadcasters, as fans of the series as well. You guys put on a great show across both races tonight, and it was a very entertaining watch.
Yeah, no, it was very good. And thank you guys for doing this again. We really appreciate it.
No, it's an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Well, thank you to Colin there, and thank you again to all of our podium sitters for, aside from Luke Rosella, who normally does chat to us. Thought he was, but yes, good to chat to some new guys as well, and Corey, seeing some new faces there. It means that the competition is strong when we've got new guys coming in and winning. So we are very, very happy with that. It means that we're in a good place in this championship. We look forward to more action with the next round taking place next week. So as you're watching this live now, put this exact time in your diaries for 7 days for the very next round at Sydney. And then 2 weeks after that, we have the 4th Sydney round, with the main series visiting Sydney 4 times, and 3 of those being main series events. And so that will be the 3rd broadcast by the Apex Rear Wing channel. Get your head around that. The graphic on your screen should clear up the any confusion that you might have had as we head towards, well, the countdown towards Bathurst, essentially, to round out this championship. Kurt Stenberg, who you heard from, saying that he'd like to get a pretty comfortable margin before Bathurst.
Well, I'm most perplexed by the fact that he hasn't got a co-driver sorted yet. That is for someone who should be in such high demand, who basically have his pick of the litter. It surprises me that he hasn't managed to settle just yet.
Well, you know, he was he's got the credentials, hasn't he? He was the very first Bathurst 1000 race winner with Jake Maloney back in 2019, if memory serves me correctly.
Yep.
And was, he came very close to winning last year in 2020 with a spirited drive, him and Dane Warren. So if you're watching and you've got a turn of speed, I'm sure Kurt Stenberg would be all ears. I'm sure he'll find a partner no trouble at all before the end of December. So we might leave it there, Michael. It's been a pleasure to have you back in the box for this round. I'm sure that we'll have you back. Well, we'll definitely have you back for Bathurst, but I'm sure that we'll have a few configurations of commentary between now and the end of the year with Madbird also on his way back. And we can't wait to bring you all of that action for the remainder of the ASC Championship in 2021.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Great show tonight, and I'm always privileged to come and watch this kind of racing and to offer some of my thoughts and my comments, and to do it in such an impressive setup that you've got here, Stairs. Even though it's not quite up to the scratch for the live broadcast internet, the fact that we can do this in such a professional way with proper camera switching and everything, it's just an absolute dream. It makes my life very easy.
Oh, you're too kind, Michael. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.